Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. Fantasy. The more children I have, the stronger I am. Chapter 1. The 5 Elements Miscellaneous Spiritual Roots or Waste Spiritual Roots. Please take them back. An immortal master in white robes took one look at the spiritual root detection stone and asked the handsome young man in front of him to go home. Today is the day when the immortal sect of Fungian sect tests their spiritual roots and accepts disciples. Anyone who has the talent to cultivate immortality will be brought into the immortal gate by the sect, and from then on they will start the road to immortality and be isolated from the mortal world. The 5 elements miscellaneous spiritual roots are still of scrap quality. Even if you spend your entire life, you will only reach the first level of chi training. Bringing this kind of waste into Fungian sect is not enough to even serve as a janitor. Sigh. The young man turned around and left lonely. His name is Li Tianyi and he is a time traveler. I thought that as a time traveler, even if I didn't have a golden finger, at least my talent for cultivating immortals should be pretty good. Unexpectedly, today's Fungian sect spiritual root test gave him a heavy blow of reality. It is difficult to cultivate the 5 elements spirit at all, not to mention that it is still a waste spiritual root. The quality of spiritual roots is divided into scrap, ordinary, low, medium, good, top, super, top, perfect, innate, mortal, and immortal. Li Tianyi doesn't know the quality above. In the village, when some people knew that Li Tianyi was not selected by the immortal sect, they all spoke earnestly. "Oh," I said, "Tianyi, this is life. We don't have the life of immortals, so we can just be ordinary people." "That's right, Tianyi, before I asked you to choose a wife, you said it would delay your cultivation. Now it's okay. It just so happens that the girl from the family I told you about has a good impression of you and is willing to wait for you. Otherwise, you can just get married. If you want, I'll go and talk to her family right away." Li Tianyi is one of the few people in the village who has read some books. Acting as a teacher in the village, teaching some village children to read and write. Collect a little money to provide food and clothing. Quite loved by everyone. Listen to the voices of the folks. Li Tianyi calmed down his heavy heart. Forget it, let's make peace with it as it comes. If you don't have the talent to embark on a journey to immortality, just find a wife and live your own life in a down-to-earth manner. Thank you folks for your care, Aunt Li. If that girl agrees, I will go. I have seen that woman Li Tianyi before. Good looks are extremely rare in this village. If Li Tianyi hadn't just focused on cultivating immortality, he might have married the girl long ago. Before, I was afraid of disturbing others, but now that I think about it, I am still too proud. So what about time travelers? Ordinary people are still ordinary people. Okay, I'm just waiting for your words, Mr. Li. I'll go matchmaking for you right away. Aunt Li said happily. Soon, with Aunt Li's help, the matter was quickly accomplished. The village was decorated with lanterns and colorful decorations to celebrate Li Tianyi's marriage. Everyone laughed and drank a lot of wine for Li Tianyi. Li Tianyi only drank a little symbolically and was not too drunk. How can a rare spring night be spent in a state of dizziness? Late at night, Li Tianyi returned to the room. In the room, the wife, wearing a red robe and a red hijab, closed her legs and folded her hands on her thighs, quietly waiting for her husband's arrival. Li Tianyi chuckled and lifted the red hijab of his wife Li Qingqing. Relying on the dim candlelight, I could clearly see Li Qingqing's delicate and rosy face. I have to say that Li Qingqing is indeed good-looking, and she is completely within Li Tianyi's aesthetic taste. "Madam, it's late at night, we should." Listening to her husband Li Tianyi's words, Li Qingqing nodded shyly. Just half an hour after Li Tianyi knocked down Li Qingqing, a mechanical sound echoed in his mind. Ding! Exciting to strengthen the offspring system. The system is on. Host: Li Tianyi. Age: 20. Cultivation: none. Qualification: 5 elements waste spirit root. Remaining lifespan: 80. It is detected that the host is giving birth to an heir. The partner's spiritual root is a mortal spiritual root of water and fire. Do you choose to spend 10 years of life to strengthen the talent of the offspring and give birth to an heir with a medium-grade fire spiritual root? Li Tianyi was stunned by this sudden sound. Is this your own golden finger? It turns out that my golden finger doesn't make me strong, it makes me my child. Thinking of the mediocrity of his life, he took another look at his remaining 80 years. Done. He has nothing in his ordinary life, but his children cannot. The middle grade fire spiritual root is considered a good spiritual root. If you can't be a cultivator, it's not bad to be the father of a cultivator. After all, it's his own bloodline. More than a month later. Congratulations, Mr. Li. Dr. Li at the head of the village congratulated Li Tianyi after checking Li Qingqing's pulse. His wife Li Qingqing is pregnant. Li Qingqing, who was sitting on the chair, looked happy when he heard this. I didn't expect that I would be able to conceive a child for Li Tianyi so soon. Li Tianyi, standing next to Li Qingqing, even though he knew the answer in advance, still showed joy after hearing that his wife was pregnant. Then all you need to do is wait quietly for the baby to be born. The middle grade fire element single spiritual root will definitely be accepted by the immortal master next time Fengyan sect comes to recruit disciples. 7 months later. Give birth. Give birth. Congratulations, Mr. Li, it's a boy. The midwife walked out of the delivery room with the infant child in her arms and came to Li Tianyi. Li Tianyi took the child from the midwife and held his own child, feeling warm in his heart. After coming to this world for so long, he finally had a child of his own. Is this what it's like to be a father? Coupled with the dazed expression of Li Tianyi holding the child, everyone around him smiled. This is how I feel when I become a parent for the first time. I feel a little overwhelmed and don't know what to do. Mr. Li, it's time to choose a name for the child. It was the villager next to him who reminded Li Tianyi. Li Tianyi finally came to his senses. Looking at the child in his arms, he thought for a moment and said, just call him Li Xing. I hope that one day, he can shine as brightly as the stars in the sky. Excellent literary talent, worthy of Mr. Li. Mr. Li, I wonder if you can give my child a name when he is born in the future. Easy to say, easy to say. Faced with the enthusiasm of the villagers, Li Tianyi responded one by one. 12 years later. In the blink of an eye. Li Tianyi is 32 years old. People have entered middle age. Fortunately, his appearance is not too old, perhaps because he does not have to work in teaching and educating people. Today's existence is lively again. After 12 years, the immortal master of Fengyan sect came to the village again to test his qualifications. Father, it's so lively today. Could it be that someone has some happy event? Li Xing, the child born 12 years ago, is now a 12-year-old boy. He inherited the excellent appearance of his parents, with red lips, white teeth, and a handsome appearance. He will definitely be a handsome young man in the future. No, Li Xing, today is the day when the immortal masters of Fengyan sect come to accept disciples. Li Tianyi put down the firewood in his hand and shook his head. It seems that today is the day when the child will leave his side. As a child with a medium-grade fire spiritual root, it was naturally impossible for Li Tianyi to let her child stay with her and live an ordinary life. Fengyan sect immortal master. It's the immortal cultivation father you told me before. That's right, Li Xing, go inform your mother. Okay, father. Li Xing quickly ran back to the house and told his mother Li Qingqing. The family didn't even have time to eat breakfast, so they hurried to the Linggan monitoring point. After this day, the sect will not know how long it will take before he comes to the village. For a small village like theirs, the sect is considered lucky to have an event every 12 years. Village entrance. More than 20 families came here with their children, hoping that their children would be selected by the sect. One person attains the Tao and the chicken and dog ascend to heaven. Looking at these villagers, only Li Tianyi understood. Even if they are really selected, the sect will most likely not let their children come back. After all, one has embarked on the path to immortality, and the other is still in the mortal world. Too many mortal concerns are not conducive to cultivation. But Li Tianyi was already prepared. The immortal looked to be a middle-aged man. He set up a table with a palm-sized transparent ball on it. This is the spiritual root detection stone, which can detect the existence of the highest quality spiritual roots. The immortal master sat on the bench boredly, looking listless, and said calmly. No spiritual roots, next one. It's a pity that the water-type waste spiritual roots are of the ordinary type. If they were only mortal-type spiritual roots, they could still be accepted. No spiritual roots. Let's go. Dozens of children in a row have no spiritual roots. The immortal masters all sighed. It seemed that the children who received 2 low-grade spiritual roots in this village a few years ago were lucky after all. That's right, it's impossible for a small village to have so many children with the qualifications to become immortals. Let's come again after a few decades next time. Maybe there will be accidents when the time comes, but according to a normal person who cultivates immortality. Maybe next time I will forget that there is a village in the corner here. Li Tianyi pulled Li Xing into a queue, while Li Qingqing waited anxiously beside him. I pray that my child will have spiritual roots. Mr. Li, you are also here with your child. Well, Xinger is already 12 years old. If you don't come here for a test, I'm afraid you will have passed the best age for cultivation. Haha, it seems that Mr. Li is very confident in his children. Don't all parents hope for this? Yeah, the two were communicating. The queue became shorter and shorter, and soon they came to the villager in front of Li Tianyi. Earth element mortal spiritual roots, finally a person with spiritual roots has arrived. Are you willing to join my Fengyan sect? The immortal master who had been idle for a long time finally gained some energy. Okay, at least I received one. Otherwise, if he returns to the sect empty-handed, he won't be able to receive even a single spiritual stone reward, and his trip will be in vain. Yes. Before the child could say anything, his father responded excitedly. Next person, the immortal master shouted. Li Tianyi led Li Xing to the spiritual root detection stone. Put your hand up, the immortal master said. Under Li Tianyi's nod, Li Xing slowly put his hand down. Next moment, the originally dim detection stone suddenly glowed with a more dazzling red light, and a scorching temperature emerged. This is a middle-grade fire element spiritual root. The immortal master stood up directly from the chair and looked at Li Xing with a much hotter gaze. As if looking at some treasure. Mid-grade spiritual roots. I didn't expect Mr. Li's child to have a middle-grade spiritual root. Their family is very lucky. I'm so envious. Would it be possible for children who study more to have higher spiritual roots? The villagers who had not yet left exclaimed. They are all here to test their children's spiritual roots. Of course, they have some understanding of the division of spiritual roots in the world of immortality. Ahem. Realizing that he had lost his temper, the immortal master smoothed his clothes and said, Are you willing to join my Fengyan sect? Willing, Li Xing said without hesitation. This is just like what my father said, this is my opportunity. Very good. The immortal master's face became a little more joyful. A mid-grade single-type spiritual root is better than his talent, and he is just a low-grade spiritual root. Entering the realm of foundation building in the future will not be easy. When he returns to the sect will definitely reward him with more cultivation resources. The better the talent of the disciple he brings back, the more rewards he can get. After testing the children from the last few families, they all found that they were not qualified. But the immortal master was still extremely happy. With the fire element's middle-grade spiritual roots, what else do you need? The immortal master took out some mortal gold and silver from the storage ring and handed it to Li Tianyi. This is money for you. From now on, your child Li Xing will be a disciple of my Fengyan sect. These gold and silver are not important to him, but to mortals, they are food. Thank you, Master Immortal. Li Tianyi took the money. Finally, I chatted with my child Li Xing for a few words. The immortal master waved his hand, and a huge flying sword flew out from the storage ring, growing in size at a speed visible to the naked eye, enough to accommodate 3 people. After bringing the 2 children with spiritual roots up, they wrapped them with spiritual power to prevent them from falling. Goodbye, father. Li Xing was taken away by the immortal master while he was reluctant to leave. Husband, it's time for us to go back. Li Qingqing said lonely. The child who had lived together for 12 years was just taken away by the immortal master. I don't know when I will be able to come back. As a mother, she naturally feels reluctant to give up. Go back. The night after returning home, Li Qingqing took the initiative to find Li Tianyi, hoping to have another child. Because almost all the children who were selected in the village never came back to see their parents again. Therefore, Li Qingqing was worried that no one would take care of their daily life in their old age, and hoped to have another child to fulfill their filial piety. Of course Li Tianyi would not refuse. But at night, he encountered a problem again. Host, Li Tianyi. Age, 32. Cultivation, None. Qualification. 5 elements waste spirit root. Remaining lifespan. 58. It has been detected that the host is giving birth to an heir. The partner's spiritual root is immortal water and fire spiritual root. Do you choose to spend 10 years of life to strengthen the offspring's talent and give birth to an heir with a medium-grade water spiritual root? Li Tianyi thought that she wanted to have an ordinary child this time, so she might refuse at worst. But if you think about it carefully, you are already 32 years old. Even if you subtract 10 years of your remaining life, you can still live to be 80 years old. Yes, finally, Li Tianyi gave his answer. How could his Li Tianyi's child be immortal? A month later, Dr. Li once again told the good news that Li Qingqing was pregnant for the second time. Not only that, Li Xing, who was in the sect, actually sent him a letter. A fairy came to deliver it in person. Thank you, fairy, for being willing to deliver this letter for me on Xinger's behalf. Li Tianyi took the letter and thanked him. I am just a mortal, and the other person is an immortal cultivator, so I must lower my attitude. The beautiful fairy shook her head and said, with a little effort, I happen to be passing by here. When junior brother Li Xing heard about it, he asked me to send this letter to you. It turned out that this fairy was on a sect mission and happened to pass through Lija village. When Li Xing learned that this senior sister was going to pass through Lija village, she hurriedly wrote this letter to her family to inform her parents that she was safe. By the way, this is the package given to you by junior brother Li Xing. The fairy opened the storage ring and threw a bulging package to Li Tianyi. Without saying anything more, Li Tianyi wanted to buy her a glass of water to express his gratitude, but the fairy refused and then flew away with his sword. Yu Jian is at least an immortal cultivator who has reached the 6th level of qi training or above. Li Tianyi said with envy in his eyes. He once thought that he had a chance to embark on the path of cultivating immortals, but he knew a lot about things related to cultivating immortals. It's a pity that in the end it was just a useless effort. Li Tianyi called Li Qingqing to read the contents of the letter. In the letter, Li Xing roughly explained his situation. He said that his talent was good, and he was valued by a foundation-building elder and accepted him as a close disciple. In this short period of 1 month, I successfully stepped into the 1st level of qi training. If this were an ordinary mortal spiritual root, it would take at least 2 months to introduce qi into the body. Spiritual roots are so important. At the same time, Li Xing also said at the end, I know, Father, that you are persistent in cultivating immortals, so I specially copied a book of Qi Lian Ju and gave it to you for your practice. Please rest assured, Father, Qi Lian Ju is the most basic technique in the world of cultivating immortals. Master said that I can copy it for you. There are also 2 low-grade spiritual stones I gave you in the package, which can help you speed up your practice, your child, Li Xing. This kid has a heart. Li Tianyi was very moved when he saw this. It seems that my children are not like the children of other villagers, who have ignored the affairs at home after embarking on the path of spiritual practice. As Li Xing, who has been with his father for 12 years. He knew that his father had always been yearning for spiritual practice. So with the master's permission, he copied a book of qi training techniques for Li Tianyi to practice. Although Li Tianyi has a useless spiritual root of the 5 elements, at least he has spiritual roots that can be cultivated. Those who do not have spiritual roots are truly incapable of embarking on spiritual practice. When he opened the package, he saw a copy of the qi training technique lying inside, as well as 2 light blue spiritual stones. Is this the spiritual stone? Li Tianyi subconsciously picked up the spirit stone and took a look. Ding! Special ability detected. Does it absorb energy to increase lifespan? Increase lifespan. Li Tianyi was shocked. He subconsciously glanced at his wife Li Qingqing and found that Li Qingqing's attention was focused on practicing Qi Ju. Then I thought to myself, absorb. Next moment, the energy in the spirit stone was sucked out. The spirit stone in Li Tianyi's hand drifted away in the wind like gray gravel and disappeared. Is this the end? Li Tianyi felt no change at all. Then opened his own system panel. Host, Li Tianyi. Age, 32. Cultivation, none. Qualification, 5 elements waste spirit root. Remaining lifespan, 49. More. Really added. Li Tianyi finally saw hope at this moment. Can you increase your lifespan by absorbing spiritual stones? It's a pity that Li Xing only gave him 2 spiritual stones, and even if he absorbed them all, his lifespan would only be 2 years. But at least now he has finally found a way to increase his lifespan, which means that as long as he has enough spiritual stones, he can rely on them to live forever. A low-grade spiritual stone has a lifespan of 1 year. Does this mean that a medium-grade spiritual stone has a lifespan of 10 years? A high-grade spiritual stone has a lifespan of 100 years. Li Tianyi's mind suddenly moved. There are also top-grade spiritual stones on top of the high-grade spiritual stones. As for the higher level, Li Tianyi is unknown. That's great, husband, you can finally practice. Li Qingqing was happy for Li Tianyi. As Li Tianyi's wife, she is of course very aware of her husband's yearning for immortality. Well, it's not just me who can practice, you can too, Qingqing. Li Tianyi almost forgot that his wife was also a mortal spiritual root of both water and fire elements. Li Qingqing pointed at herself in surprise. Can I practice too? Don't you know you have spiritual roots? I don't know. Facing Li Tianyi's inquiry, Li Qingqing could only shake his head. She really didn't know that she still had spiritual roots. I found out later after Li Qingqing's explanation. It turns out that she is the only child in Li Qingqing's family, and her parents are worried that her spiritual roots will be taken away by the immortal master, leaving them helpless. He simply didn't take Li Qingqing to test his spiritual roots. In the coming days, Li Tianyi and his wife started practicing Qi Lianju. The Qi training techniques copied in this book can only be practiced to the 5th level of Qi training at most. No wonder Xinger's master said that he could copy it to them. Li Tianyi's talent is really poor. It took him more than 7 months to reach the threshold of the 1st level of Qi training. On the contrary, his pregnant wife Li Qingqing has already entered the 1st level of Qi training and has become an introductory immortal cultivator. In this snowy winter, Li Qingqing gave birth to their child, a daughter. Li Tianyi named her daughter Li Shui'er. At the beginning of the next spring, Li Tianyi also asked a man who was out of town to help him deliver a letter to Li Xing. In the letter, he wrote some words for Li Xing to practice hard. Finally, add a sentence at the end. With the spiritual stone here, your mother and I will practice quickly. This letter was sent less than a month ago. Li Tianyi received a letter from Li Xing. In the letter, Li Xing congratulated his mother for stepping into the 1st level of Qi training, and comforted his old father Li Tianyi not to lose heart. He also said that he had reached the 3rd level of Qi training, and his master praised him as a genius. At the same time, there were 20 more low-grade spiritual stones in the package. According to Li Xing himself, his monthly salary in Fengyan sect is 5 middle-grade spiritual stones. Coupled with some extra care from the master, there is not much shortage of spiritual stones and places to use them. Since this thing can help parents speed up their cultivation progress, Li Xing is of course willing to give more. I don't give too much because I'm afraid my parents will be taken care of by some bad guys. Of the 20 low-grade spiritual stones, Li Tianyi gave 5 to his wife. This was given to them by Xinger, so of course he wouldn't keep it to himself. He had to use the remaining 15 pieces himself. After all, every time he had a child with Li Qingqing, it would cost him 10 years of his life. If he continues at this pace, if he doesn't absorb more spiritual stones, his body will definitely be unable to bear it. Every next month, Li Xing would send a letter to his family, along with 20 low-grade spiritual stones. In a blink of an eye, another 6 years have passed. During these years, when Li Tianyi's age exceeded 500 years old, he originally planned to give half of the spiritual stones to his wife Li Qingqing for cultivation and use. After all, he can live for 500 years, so what else can he do with absorbing so many spiritual stones? It is better to let Li Qingqing speed up his practice and see if he can reach the foundation building stage and increase his lifespan. But this was rejected by Li Qingqing, and she still collected 5 low-grade spiritual stones every month. Li Tianyi could only sigh and choose to accept this, and his lifespan has exceeded 1,000 years. Perhaps because he has a lifespan of 1,000 years, his appearance miraculously does not age. On the contrary, he looks younger, as if he is 20 years old. On the contrary, Li Qingqing was 36 years old, and there were obviously some wrinkles at the corners of his eyes. The lifespan of the qi refining period is undoubtedly the same as that of ordinary people. It is nothing more than a healthier and stronger body. Only by breaking through the foundation building and becoming a foundation building monk can one break through the limit and have a lifespan of 300 years. Today, Fengyan sect came to Lija village to recruit disciples again. This time it came earlier than in previous years, leaving many families unprepared. Not only that, but someone who surprised Li Tianyi came this time, and that was his own child, Li Xing. Father, a high-spirited young man with a handsome face ran over. He is actually Li Xing, the child who has been studying at Fengyan sect for 6 years. 6 years. The 12-year-old boy has finally grown up, and the youthfulness has faded from his face, replaced by calmness. Xinger, even if they haven't seen each other for many years, Li Tianyi can still recognize Li Xing. It's not the emotion between father and son, but the system can identify his own children. Xinger, compared to the calm Li Tianyi, Li Qingqing is more emotional. He stepped forward and hugged Li Xing. Looking at the mother and son, Li Tianyi smiled happily. His child is probably the first immortal cultivator who has not forgotten his family even when he embarks on spiritual practice. It shows that I had a good education when Li Xing was a child. After hugging his mother, Li Xing noticed the little girl next to his father and said in surprise, "Father, this is my sister. 1 level of qi training. Well, her name is Li Shuiye. Shuiye, don't be afraid, this is your brother Li Xing, he is a real immortal cultivator." Li Tianyi knew that her daughter had a medium-grade water spiritual root. So Li Shuiye has been allowed to practice qi ju since she was a child, but unfortunately she is still too young. Despite possessing this talent, his practice is still slow. At the age of 6, she is now just a qi practitioner at the first level of qi training. Of course, this is much more powerful than Li Tianyi. After so many years, he finally reached the level of qi training. I finally understood why I was called a useless spiritual root. The scrap spiritual roots are rotten enough. It's still a useless spiritual root of the 5 elements. It would be good to be able to step onto the first level of qi training. Father, my little sister is at the first level of qi training. She has practiced qi training, right? Li Xing hugged his sister affectionately and said excitedly. Very good. The fact that the little girl can step into the first level of qi training at such a young age shows that she has good talent and can definitely be accepted into the sect by Fengyan sect. I can finally have a family in Fengyan sect. With Li Xing's identity. Li Shuiye successfully joined the team and tested her spiritual root qualifications in advance. The detection stone gradually emits a light blue glow. This is a middle-grade water spiritual root. No surprises. Li Tianyi's daughter Li Shuiye was successfully accepted as a disciple by Fengyan sect. This time the entire Lija village was shocked. Everyone came to congratulate Li Tianyi on giving birth to a pair of fairy daughters. In the eyes of this group of mortals, no matter what the realm of immortal cultivators is, it is an insurmountable mountain for them, so it doesn't matter if they are called immortals. Ever since Li Shuiye was taken to Fengyan sect, Li Qingqing approached Li Tianyi many times, hoping that Li Tianyi could marry another wife. Spread branches and leaves for him. Li Tianyi was a little surprised at first. He didn't understand why his wife would say that. Later I found out that it was his wife who was seeing him getting younger and younger, while her own appearance was getting older and older. I feel that I am definitely not worthy of Li Tianyi, and I hope he can find another wife. Li Tianyi flatly refused. Because he has done some research over the years, that is, his partner must be someone with spiritual roots. If you really marry a mortal, even if you waste 10 years of your life, you will be a useless spiritual root. There are very few women with spiritual roots like Li Qingqing who are admitted into the sect without being tested. Even if she is not married yet, the person she will marry in the future will also be an immortal cultivator. How can she be an ordinary person like me? That night, Li Tianyi expressed that she wanted to have a child with Li Qingqing, and of course Li Qingqing would not refuse. Host. Li Tianyi. Age. 39. Cultivation. Level 1 of Qi training. Qualification. 5 elements waste spirit root. Remaining life. 1138. It has been detected that the host is giving birth to an heir. The partner's spiritual root is immortal water and fire spiritual root. Do you want to spend 10 years of your life to strengthen the offspring's talent and give birth to an heir with a medium-grade fire spiritual root? Yes. Not surprisingly, Li Tianyi chose yes. I already have a lifespan of thousands of years, so why do I care about 10 years of life? What's more, there are 20 spiritual stones sent by Shuiye and Xinger every month. Li Qingqing's realm is stuck at the 3rd level of qi training. Perhaps this is the limit of her talent. No matter how many spiritual stones are absorbed, the spiritual energy will eventually disperse and return to the world. Seeing that the spiritual stones were useful to her husband, she simply gave them all to Li Tianyi. Half-year later, there are still more than 2 months left before Li Qingqing's delivery period. Li Tianyi sat quietly in the yard reading a book, while his wife knitted beside him. Just this morning, the fairy who had been delivering letters to them all year round was here, but this time it was a little different. The fairy's face turned red and she looked as if she had been drugged. "Fairy, what are you doing?" The fairy's sword fell from the sky, and fell into Li Tianyi's arms with her body weak. "The fragrant wind enters your arms." Before he could ask more questions, the fairy hugged him forcefully and began to chew on him. How could he, who was only at the 1st level of qi training, be a match for this fairy who could fly with a sword? Finally, under the shocked eyes of his wife. Host: Li Tianyi. Age: 39. Cultivation: Level 1 of qi training. Qualification: 5 elements waste spirit root. Remaining lifespan: 1308. It is detected that the host is giving birth to an heir, and the partner's spiritual root is a middle-grade gold spiritual root. After 10 years of lifespan, the offspring's spiritual root becomes a middle-grade gold spiritual root. After spending 100 years of life, the spiritual root of the descendant will be a good quality spiritual root of the gold system. After spending 1,000 years of life, the spiritual root of the offspring will be a high-grade gold spiritual root. These 3 multiple-choice questions stunned Li Tianyi. At first he thought his 1,000 years of life was a lot. Now it seems that this is not much at all. Thinking that it was her own child, Li Tianyi chose the 3rd option. Ding! After spending 1,000 years of life, the spiritual root of the descendant was upgraded to a high-grade gold spiritual root. Ding! Congratulations to the host for successfully consuming 1,000 years of life, and the system has started to upgrade. Update success. The system opens new functions. 1. Turn on the cultivation feedback function, and part of the cultivation that the heir has cultivated will be returned to the host. 2. Turn on the system storage function, which can store any items, except living animals. 3. Turn on the Krypton life function, burn 100 years of life, and you will be able to exert a full blow to the perfect state of qi training. 4. Turn on the function, Father's love is like a mountain. Your children will have inexplicable trust and affection for you as their father, and will not feel betrayal. 5. Turn on the heir growth function, and all adventures and dangers encountered by the heirs will be displayed dynamically. Li Tianyi, who was lying on the table looking at the fairy, was stunned. Has the system been upgraded? There wasn't much opportunity for him to study new functions at the moment, and there was a fairy charging at him. The fighting continued until the sun went down in the evening. As a wife, Li Qingqing could only watch this fairy ruining her husband, but she sat aside helplessly. The fairy put away her clothes calmly. If it weren't for the blush on her face and the red on the table, she would have thought she was used to it. Since you are the father of junior brother Li Xing, I will not kill anyone and silence you. I also hope that you can keep your mouth shut and pretend that none of this has ever happened. Do you understand? The fairy turned her back to Li Tianyi and took a deep breath. If she hadn't been smitten by that guy's charm drug, would she have given herself to an ordinary person in such a stupid way? But no matter what, Li Tianyi is his first man and the father of junior brother Li Xing. No matter what, she couldn't do it. Li Tianyi picked up his torn upper body and said, "Please rest assured, fairy, I will definitely keep my mouth shut." It better be so. Finished. The fairy summoned his flying sword and left. Husband. As soon as the fairy left, Li Qingqing threw herself into Li Tianyi's arms and cried. "It's okay, everything is over." Li Tianyi sighed. Strictly speaking, he took advantage of this matter. From what he just did, any fool can tell that there is something wrong with this fairy's health. He must have been framed. This is. Letting go of Li Qingqing, Li Tianyi noticed a small bag on the table. When he opened it, he found 5 shiny middle-grade spiritual stones lying in it. No need to guess, this is definitely left by the fairy. With her methods, she must have clearly left behind this bag of spiritual stones. Seeing it this way should be something the other party deliberately left to themselves. But what the fairy didn't know was that Li Tianyi had spent 1,000 years of his life for the sake of the child in her belly. Even with these 5 middle-grade spiritual stones as supplements, it is far from enough. I don't know what this fairy's name is. Since she is Li Xing's senior sister, I will write a letter to ask Li Xing next time. After all, the other party is pregnant with her own child. Gotta find out. Ding. The eldest son Li Xing broke through to the great perfection state of qi training and returned 1% of his cultivation level. Ding. The second daughter Li Shuier broke through the second level of qi training and returned 1% of her cultivation. Cultivation breakthrough. Li Tianyi's eyes flashed with excitement. Although only 1% of his cultivation level was returned, 1% of the eldest son's qi training Zouchen realm was enough for him to step into the second level of qi training. Although my own talent is too poor to cultivate, the children's talent is good. With the function of returning cultivation, all he needs to do is have more children and let them cultivate for him. Not only that, but there is also the ability to burn life and gain strength. According to his current lifespan, he is enough to hit 3 full-strength qi training blows. In this remote Lija village, they were already invincible. Fengyan sect. Xinger, congratulations on your successful entry into the great perfection state of qi training. Next, my master will prepare a foundation building pill for you to help you quickly build your foundation. An old man with an immortal demeanor walked up to Li Xing, looked at Li Xing with admiration, and nodded with satisfaction. As expected of a middle-grade spiritual root, the cultivation progress is very fast. After reaching the Zouchen state of qi training, ordinary monks have 2 choices. First, slowly settle yourself, look for opportunities for breakthrough, and reach the realm of foundation building. But this step is too difficult. Many monks who are not very talented will probably be stuck in front of the foundation building gate from birth to death. Second, this method is relatively simple, and the probability of foundation building is basically 100%. That is to swallow the foundation establishment pill. The Zouchen of qi training is 1 step away from foundation building, but it just misses the opportunity. Foundation establishment pill can help you quickly find this opportunity to break through. Li Xing's master is the 6th elder of Fengyan sect, and he is over 250 years old this year. His cultivation is at the 8th level of foundation building, but he only has low-grade spiritual roots. If it weren't for some adventures when he was young, he might have been stuck in the Zouchen realm of qi training for his whole life. After becoming a foundation building monk, he joined the sect and relied on the sect's resources to slowly accumulate to the 8th level of foundation building. According to his own words, there is no hope for him to obtain a golden elixir in this life. Living for 300 years after reaching foundation establishment is already pretty good. Now he puts his hope on Li Xing. As long as Li Xing has the opportunity to break through the golden elixir and become a golden elixir monk, he can also be regarded as the teacher of the golden elixir monk, and his face will be bright. Li Xing adjusted the spiritual power in his body, opened his eyes and said, "Thank you, master, but the foundation establishment pill." Don't worry, I know what you are thinking. Fengyan sect can still afford a foundation building pill. Besides, with your talent, I only need to talk to the sect and they will prepare it for you. The 6th elder chuckled. As a young genius from the sect who has the potential to become a foundation building monk, how could the sect deliberately suppress him? If you were an ordinary monk, you would still need to complete sect tasks and gradually accumulate reputation before you can exchange it for a foundation building pill. Li Xing is completely unnecessary. His talent showed that the value of a foundation building pill was simply not comparable to his own. While the master and apprentice were talking, a woman in a white dress flew over with a sword in the sky outside. When the 6th elder saw the woman, he took the initiative to greet her and said, "Wan Bai, your junior brother has achieved a breakthrough in qi training. Please come quickly to congratulate her." Master. This woman turned out to be the fairy Shen Wanbai who had just flown back from Lija village. Shen Wanbai first called him master, then turned his face and said, "Congratulations to junior brother for being promoted to the great perfection of qi training. I will help you build your foundation as soon as possible. Thank you, senior sister, for your blessing." I also wish senior sister an early breakthrough to the third level of foundation establishment. Li Xing responded with a smile. Li Tianyi's guess was wrong. The fairy he had love with was not in the so-called qi refining stage, but a real foundation-building monk. The sixth elder was extremely pleased to see these two apprentices who were in good terms with each other. While watching, the sixth elder suddenly noticed something important. Xinger, please go out for a moment. I have something to talk to your senior sister Wanbai. Yes. When Li Xing left, the sixth elder said with a serious face, Wanbai, who did you give your virginity to? He didn't expect that just by asking his apprentice to go out to complete a sect mission, he would lose his virginity. Losing her virginity so early now is very likely to be detrimental to Wanbai's future cultivation progress. Master, I met the guys from the Blood Mist sect. They were no match for me, but the mist they released made me itchy. Finally, Shen Wanbai said no more. The ending has been like this, and you know what you did in the end without saying anything. Blood Mist sect. These guys from the demon sect are too arrogant. The sixth elder said angrily. The place they were in was a region called Yangzhongguo. There are 5 sects and 3 sects in this country, 2 of which are orthodox cultivating sects, and the other 3 sects and 1 sect are demonic cultivating sects. This is the result that Yangzhongguo can create. 4 righteous men and 4 villains can create balance. It would not be possible for one family to become the dominant one and then turn against itself as the leader of the country. Of course, Yangzhongguo is still more upright. After all, the practice of the demon sect is too cruel, and it is basically a matter of taking one's life. If this group of people knew that their country was aiding evil, who would stay here? After briefly talking about the Blood Mist sect, the sixth elder asked, who took your virginity? Shen Wanbai didn't know how to say it. This is junior brother Li Xing's father, where should she start? If junior brother Li Xing found out, she wouldn't know how to face him. Seeing Shen Wanbai's troubled expression, the sixth elder sighed and did not force her to tell who it was. He just asked Shen Wanbai not to go down the mountain to take on the sect's tasks recently, and to stay with the sect to practice well, so as not to create inner demons if something goes wrong during the practice. Yes, Shen Wanbai knew the dangers of problems in cultivation. He immediately returned to his room and practiced cross-legged. But for some reason, when I close my eyes, I see myself and Li Tianyi running around on the table. Phew. Exhaling a breath of turbid air, Shen Wanbai opened her eyes and said to herself in confusion, is this the so-called inner demon? Time flies. 2 months have passed. The child in Li Qingqing's belly was born, and she was still a girl. Li Tianyi named her Li Yan. Li Tianyi, who knew that her daughter had spiritual roots, began to prepare her own practice for Li Yan very early. It's just that Li Yan is not sensible yet and doesn't know the words, let alone practice. At the same time, within Fengyan sect, in 2 months, Shen Wanbai learned a fact that she was shocked but had to accept: she was pregnant. Although 2 months was not enough time to show her pregnancy, Shen Wanbai, as a foundation-building monk, could clearly feel that there was a life quietly gestating in her body. Oops. It didn't matter that her virginity was given away in a daze, but now she was pregnant with a child. What was she going to do? After learning that she was pregnant, Shen Wanbai couldn't concentrate on her practice no matter what. In desperation, she had no choice but to find her master, the sixth elder, the only person who knew her situation. Knowing that Shen Wanbai had something to do with him, the sixth elder came to Shen Wanbai. Shen Wanbai quickly told the sixth elder about her pregnancy. She's pregnant now, the sixth elder said in surprise. The higher the realm of immortality, the more difficult it is to conceive a child. For example, if a monk in the foundation building stage wants to conceive a child, he basically has to try 5 or 6 times before he has a chance of success. Is this how pregnant my apprentice is? Shen Wanbai said anxiously. Master, you tell me what I should do. It was her first time as a little girl to get on the sedan chair, and she was so anxious that she didn't know what to do. Don't panic, Wanbai, it's only been 2 months, there's still time to take the abortion pill. The sixth elder comforted him. Now he doesn't even know who the child's father is, and he doesn't support Wanbai giving birth to a child. Otherwise, wouldn't the reputation of his disciple Shen Wanbai be ruined? Abortion pill. Hearing what the master said, Shen Wanbai hesitated again. Having her own child for the first time, she felt curious about everything, especially her subconscious telling her that she must keep this child. You make the decision about your body, Wanbai, but if you know the father of the child, I still suggest that you go find him and explain the situation to him. The sixth elder is someone who has been here before. I feel that if Shen Wanbai wants to keep the child, she must at least ask the other party's father to give him a name. This way, people won't think of Wanbai as some indecent woman. The father of the child. Of course Shen Wanbai knew who the child's father was. He is the father of his junior brother Li Xing. After the sixth elder left, Shen Wanbai hesitated and approached Li Xing, who was practicing. Li Xing's sister Li Shuier was not accepted as a disciple by the sixth elder, but by the fifth elder. After all, how could all the children with middle-grade spiritual roots be given to the sixth elder? Senior sister, why are you here? Li Xing stopped practicing and asked curiously. Master said that he would give him a foundation building pill in a few days. So in the past 2 months, he has been practicing his fighting skills. Well, it's almost the end of the month. Junior brother, you must have sent another letter home, right? Shen Wanbai asked as she expanded the topic. Li Xing nodded and said, yes, senior sister, you also know that Master always said that we should cut off the world of mortals, but my father's kindness in raising me is actually so easy to cut off. I have decided that after I send my father away, I will completely cut off my bond with the world of mortals. This is Li Xing's idea. However, Shen Wanbai's focus was obviously not on this. He looked around with his eyes in a daze that made Li Xing confused. Senior sister is so weird today. He came to ask himself this, but he answered, but the senior sister was completely out of sorts. Sister, okay, I just have to go out and pass through Lijiakun, so I'll leave the letter to you. How can this be so embarrassing, senior sister? It's a small matter, or do you mean that you don't believe me, senior sister? Where is it? If that's the case, then I'll leave it to you, senior sister. Can I also give you my sister's letters? No problem. Farewell to Li Xing. Shen Wanbai went to find Li Shuier. Knowing that this senior sister wanted to help deliver the letter, Li Shuier was naturally very grateful. Taking the letter from the two of them and the spirit stone in the package, Shen Wanbai flew towards Lija village with her sword. Lijiakun. Li Qingqing is holding her 2-month-old daughter, while her husband Li Tianyi is carving something on the table. Just as the two were enjoying a warm and quiet time, a familiar figure flew into the courtyard with a sword. Master Fairy. Shen Wanbai looked around, not having the courage to face Li Tianyi directly. If it weren't for the child in her belly, she might never be able to see Li Tianyi again in her life. After all, something like this happened, how should she face it? Seeing the erratic look in the fairy's eyes, Li Tianyi probably guessed it and turned around and said, Qingqing, take Yun'er back to the house. Li Qingqing glanced at Shen Wanbai. He nodded and went back to the house with his daughter Li Yan in his arms. When he saw his wife entering the house, Li Tianyi said, I wonder why the fairy came to me. I'm pregnant. Seeing Li Qingqing walking away, Shen Wanbai became a little bolder. She told her that she was pregnant with a child. Pregnant? Li Tianyi pretended to be surprised. In fact, there is no surprise in my heart. I only need to spend my own life, and the probability of my partner giving birth to an heir is 100%. Shen Wanbai blushed and nodded. Yes, I'm pregnant. I only found out recently. Honestly, she didn't know what to do. I don't know the fairy's name. Shen Wanbai, just call me Wanbai. Maybe it's because Li Tianyi is Shen Wanbai's first man. Even though the other party is immortal, Shen Wanbai has a very good impression of Li Tianyi. Unconscious fairy Bai, what are you going to do with the child in your belly? Li Tianyi asked symbolically. It was impossible to kill the child that he had spent his life trying to give birth to. Unless there is a woman who is cruel enough to kill herself or cut open her own belly and kill her unborn child. Otherwise, the child would not be aborted by simple means. Li Tianyi, I tell you the truth, you are my first man. If you were a monk, I might be willing to become a Taoist partner with you. But you're just an ordinary person, huh? No, you've reached the second level of Qi training. Only then did Shen Wanbai notice that Li Tianyi was already a second-level Qi training monk. It's just a lucky break. Fairy Wanbai, you also know that my spiritual roots are very poor. If Xing'er and Shui hadn't sent me spiritual stones, I might not have been able to break through. Li Tianyi said modestly. This is the truth. Although you are a monk, your cultivation is too low and your talent is too poor. 100 years from now you will be nothing more than a handful of loess. Do you understand what I mean? Shen Wanbai looked at Li Tianyi with complicated eyes and said. Of course she hopes that Li Tianyi's talent can be better, so that he can at least be by her side in the future. The problem is that Li Tianyi's spiritual roots are too poor and the 5 elements spiritual roots are useless. The second level of Qi training may be the opponent's end. If there is no breakthrough to the foundation building stage, there is no way to achieve a breakthrough in lifespan. Of course I understand, Fairy Wanbai. Li Tianyi understood what Shen Wanbai meant. It's good that you understand. Let's do this for now. I'm going back. Oh, by the way, this is the letter and spirit stone your child gave you. Keep it. Finally sighing, Shen Wanbai decided to leave. Just meet Li Tianyi once. From now on, she has no contact with Li Tianyi. If the child she gives birth to in the future does not have spiritual roots, she will find a wealthy family to give it away so that the child can grow up safely. Summoning Splash, he stepped on the sword with a slight leap. Just as he was about to leave, Shen Wanbai stopped and turned around and said, if it were you, what would you name the child in your belly? Me. If it's a boy, it's Li Feng, if it's a girl, it's Li Yulan. Li Tianyi thought. I see. Shen Wanbai nodded and left with his sword. After Shen Wanbai left, Li Qingqing finally walked out of the house and asked Li Tianyi why Shen Wanbai came. Li Tianyi didn't say anything more and changed the subject. Where is Yun'er? Yun'er was coaxed to sleep by me. Li Qingqing replied. About a day passed. Ding. Li Xing breaks through to the first level of the foundation building stage and feeds back 1,000th of his cultivation level. Break. Li Tianyi came from the second floor of Qi training to the third floor of Qi training. Xing'er broke through the foundation. Li Tianyi said happily. What makes him a little confused is why he only returned 1,000th of his cultivation. After some research, Li Tianyi found out that the higher the child's cultivation level, the less cultivation they receive in return. The foundation building stage is 1 in 1,000, the golden elixir stage is 1 in 10,000, and the higher you go, the more so. If you want to improve your cultivation of feedback, it is necessary to upgrade the system to the next stage. Upgrading to the next stage requires Li Tianyi to consume a cumulative lifespan of 10,000 years. 10,000 years, if it were Shen Wanbai, she would only have to give birth to 10 children. But if it were his wife Li Qingqing, it would be 100. Even if one is born a year, this is impossible. Don't forget that Li Qingqing's cultivation is only at the 4th level of Qi training, and his lifespan is the same as that of ordinary people. What's more, you can't let an old woman give birth to a child, right? I can't get promoted a long time ago. 6 months later. Fengyan sect. Today, Shen Wanbai suddenly felt a pain in her stomach and immediately understood that she was pregnant. The baby is about to be born. As a monk in the foundation building stage, she does not need a midwife to give birth to her child. She only needs her master and junior brother to wait outside. Just in case someone breaks in. Senior sister found a Taoist companion and didn't bring it to us to see. It's really not interesting. Li Xing stood outside and said. Shen Wanbai's belly was getting bigger day by day, and of course she couldn't hide it from Li Xing. Okay Xing'er, let's just wait slowly. It is not that difficult for Shen Wanbai, who has the second level of foundation building cultivation, to give birth to a child. Even without a midwife around, she still gave birth to her first child, a boy, very smoothly. Holding the child in her arms, Shen Wanbai was slightly stunned, and then a smile couldn't help but rise at the corner of her mouth. Maybe this is maternal love. So this is the amazing feeling of having a child. Shen Wanbai arranged her clothes, wrapped some quilts on her child and walked out. Seeing Shen Wanbai walking out with the child in her arms, Li Xing and the 6th elder rushed to greet him. Is it a boy or a girl? The 6th elder asked. Once a teacher, always a father. What's more, Shen Wanbai is still the proud disciple of the 6th elder. Facing Shen Wanbai, he had already treated her as his own daughter. Shen Wanbai hugged the child and said, "It's a boy. Congratulations, senior sister, I wonder what name you plan to give this child. Li Xing looked at the child in his senior sister's arms. I don't know why, but he always feels a little bit closer. It's as if the other person is some kind of relative of one's own. It must be an illusion. My good impression of this child should come from my senior sister. Just call him Li Feng. Shen Wanbai lowered her head and looked at the child lovingly. After much thought, she will decide to name it after Li Tianyi. No matter what, Li Tianyi is the child's father. Li, speaking of which, the child's father is also named Li. What a coincidence. Li Xing said in surprise. This surprised him a bit. Yes. Yes, maybe it's a coincidence. When Shen Wanbai said this, she was a little afraid to face her junior brother's gaze. How should I put it? It is impossible to directly say that the father of the child is actually your father. While the two were talking, the sixth elder took out a spiritual root detection stone from his storage ring. Wanbai, no matter what, we agreed before to test the child's spiritual roots first. If the child's spiritual roots are not good, he will be given to a good family for adoption. If his spiritual roots are good enough to support his path of cultivation, then he can stay in the sect. The sixth elder said. This was what he had agreed with Shen Wanbai before the child was born. There is no way. Shen Wanbai is an immortal cultivator after all, and may break through the golden core stage in the future. If the child does not have the talent to cultivate immortality, he will definitely become a burden to her, and even become an obstacle for her to break through the golden elixir. The sixth elder did this for Shen Wanbai's good. Fortunately, Shen Wanbai could understand his approach. Put your hands down, kid. The sixth elder said. Fenger, whether mother and son can still stay together depends on your own destiny. Shen Wanbai picked up the child's petite hand and put it down with a slight trembling. Ding! When the child put his little hand on it, a dazzling golden light gradually rose and reflected on the faces of the three people. This is a high-grade gold spiritual root. The sixth elder was stunned. Golden high-grade spiritual root. The only disciples with high-grade spiritual roots in the entire sect are those three core disciples. It is enough to show the rarity of high-grade spiritual roots. But what he never expected was that Wanbai's child would have a high-grade spiritual root. Once the high-grade spiritual roots grow, they will at least be powerful in the future. There are only two powerful nascent souls in the sect, one is the sect leader and the other is the supreme elder. God bless the sect. God bless the sect. Congratulations, senior sister. Li Xing said with sincerity. Great, so world class won't be separated from his own children. I'll report it to the sect leader right away. Wanbai, you stay here with Xinger first and take care of the child. After the sixth elder finished speaking, he flew away excitedly. Seeing their master losing his composure, Li Xing and Shen Wanbai smiled helplessly. But they didn't think there was anything wrong. This is a top-grade spiritual root. Zongmin Main Hall. A woman in green clothes is sitting on the seat of the sect leader, with 3,000 black hair hanging down behind her head, still blowing in the wind. His aloofness is intimidating. Even though she has a beautiful appearance, she gives people a feeling that she can only be viewed from a distance but not played with. She is the current sect leader of Fengyan sect, Ji Yu Qingxi. The realm is at the third level of nascent soul, and he is a well-deserved master of nascent soul. Sect master. The sixth elder bowed down respectfully. The tone was extremely humble. In front of the powerful nascent soul, the golden core stage is nothing but an existence that can be destroyed with the wave of a hand. If the first level of the golden core stage and the second level of the golden core stage still have a chance to fight, then there is a huge gap between the first level of Yuanying and the second level of Yuanying. It is impossible to beat the second level of Yuanying with the first level of Yuanying. The further the realm goes, the greater the gap at each level will be. Bai Kelliu, what do you want from me? Ji Yu Qingxi opened her beautiful eyes slightly, and a trace of expression appeared in them. She felt a little curious. It's like this, sect master, my disciple Shen Wanbai is pregnant and has given birth to a child. Since I am your disciple, I can just leave it to you. There is no need to come and ask me. Before sixth elder Bai Kelliu finished speaking, Ji Yu Qingxi interrupted him. Why do you still need to ask her about such a simple thing? No, sect master, please listen to me first. I tested this child's qualifications right after he was born, and found out that he is actually a child with a high-grade gold spiritual root. Bai Keliu said excitedly. High-quality spiritual roots. Ji Yu Qingxi, who had no interest at all, opened her eyes instantly. If a child with high-grade spiritual roots is well protected and given enough time to grow, he can add a powerful nascent soul to the sect. Although there are already 3 geniuses with high-grade spiritual roots in the sect, how can there be too many talented sects? Yes, Master. Bai Keliu was not surprised to see that the sect leader finally had a slight fluctuation in his expression. This is a top-grade spiritual root. You must know that even the sect leader himself is nothing but a good spiritual root. It was this high-grade spiritual root that made the sect master stuck on the 3rd level of nascent soul for a long time. If it had been a high-grade spiritual root, the sect master would have broken through long ago. This child must be protected. I remember that the great elder has no disciples yet, right? Ask him if he is willing to accept this child with high-grade spiritual roots as his disciple. Yes. Looking at Bai Keliu's back, Ji Yu Qingxi closed her eyes again. This 6th elder is really lucky. Relying on the qualifications of low-grade spiritual roots and relying on adventure, he reached the 8th floor of the foundation building. Originally, according to his cultivation level, he was not qualified to become the 6th elder of Fengyan sect. One must at least be in the golden core stage to be qualified to be an elder of Fengyan sect. However, the situation was special at that time. It was the time to employ people, and Bai Keliu got a pill he needed, so he was given the position of elder. Enjoy the salary and rights of an elder. It seems that my original decision was correct. Bai Keliu is a person with good luck. Even the disciples he accepted gave birth to children with high-grade spiritual roots. Lijia-kun, Mr. Li, your immortal son has sent you a letter. Li Niuer, who was going to the market in the town, drove a bullock cart to the door of Li Tianyi's house. At the end of every month, Li Niuer would go to the town. Li Xing simply sent the letter to the inn in the town, and Li Niuer only needed to pick it up when he passed by. The immortal's letter will not be lost at the inn, let alone the contents and packages inside. They are just ordinary people, how dare they offend Li Xing? What's more, if you make Li Xing happy, you might be able to give them a reward. For mortals, a little bit of something flowing out from the immortal's fingers is enough for them to be happy for a lifetime. Thank you, Brother Li. Li Tianyi walked to the door, took the letter and chuckled. He said that he took out money from his sleeves, but it was actually money he took out from the system space. No, it's not a big deal. This is a letter written by your immortal son, but it has a little bit of immortality. This is the best reward for me. Li Niuer declined Li Tianyi's kindness. In his opinion, working for immortal Li Xing is the best reward. Looking at Li Niuer's leaving figure, Li Tianyi felt even more emotional. This is the fundamental difference between immortal cultivators and mortals. But what Li Niuer didn't know was that he was now also an immortal cultivator at the 4th level of Qi training. When the previous child Li Xing broke through the foundation building stage, his realm was improved. It is a pity that this time Li Xing's 1st level cultivation in the foundation stage was only 1000th. According to the system, the higher the level of the heir, the lower the level of cultivation he will receive in return. In the foundation building stage, 1/1000th of the reward will be given back, and in the golden elixir stage, 1/10,000th of the reward will be given back. If you want to improve your cultivation, you must upgrade the system level. This is quite good, and if you want to improve the system level, you must create babies like crazy. The more accumulated lifespan you consume, the higher your system level can be improved. It seems that I need to find more wives. Li Qingqing alone is not enough, let alone. Regarding Li Qingqing's matter, Li Tianyi was also helpless. He doesn't have to worry about his lifespan for the time being, but his wife Li Qingqing's lifespan is only 100 years. Unless she breaks through to the foundation building stage, even if she reaches the great perfection of Qi training, her lifespan will not be broken through. Unfortunately, he currently doesn't have any treasures in his hands that can help Li Qingqing live longer. Let nature take its course. Li Tianyi shook his head and returned to the house with Li Xing's letter. Yard. Seeing her husband come back, Li Qingqing stepped forward with her 3rd daughter Li Yan in her arms and asked, "What did the letter from Xinger say?" I haven't had time to see it yet, let's take a look together. After asking Li Qingqing to sit down, the couple sat down. The first thing Li Xing said in the letter was about his breakthrough to the first level of foundation building. You can see from the text how excited he was. After all, the foundation building stage and the qi refining stage seem to be very close, but in fact there are countless monks stuck here. After talking about himself, Li Xing also talked about his senior sister Shen Wanbai's child. It was said that the senior sister's child had a high-grade gold spiritual root, which attracted the sect leader to come forward, and specially arranged for the elder to teach the child to practice. Li Lang, the senior sister's child that Xinger mentioned should be yours and that fairies, right? Li Qingqing is not stupid. He quickly guessed the identity of the fairy based on the time and the information in Xinger's letter. It's her name is Shen Wanbai, but this has nothing to do with me. Just because of our identities, she can't come to see me again. When Shen Wanbai came last time, she told Li Tianyi that it was the last time they met. There will be no chance to meet in the future. Li Tianyi has no feelings for Shen Wanbai. But it is different for children, who have a systematic function of fatherly love. As long as the child sees him, he can make the other person trust and like him. So Li Tianyi still hopes to see this child. Li Qingqing hugged Li Yan and nodded slightly. Time flies by, and 5 years have passed. Li Tianyi's third daughter, Li Yan, officially embarked on spiritual practice. The talent of a middle-grade spiritual root cannot be wasted. In the past 5 years, Li Qingqing's face has gained a trace of vicissitudes. On the contrary, Li Tianyi was radiant and in better and better spirits. Ding! It was detected that Li Xing broke through the third level of foundation building, and he fed back 1,000th of his cultivation level. Ding! It was detected that the second daughter Li Shuier broke through the 8th level of qi training and fed back 1% of her cultivation. Ding! It was detected that the third daughter Li Yan had broken through the first level of qi training and fed back 1% of her cultivation. Ding! It was detected that the fourth son Li Feng had broken through the 5th level of qi training and fed back 1% of his cultivation. An invisible and intangible wave of spiritual energy rippled from Li Tianyi's body. He exhaled a long breath and said softly, I have reached the 6th level of qi training. During these 5 years, he stopped practicing and chose to devote all his energy to teaching his daughter Li Yan. Li Yan lived up to expectations and successfully broke through to the first level of qi training when she was 5 years old. This speed is already considered very fast. But what amazed Li Tianyi was that his fourth son Li Feng had reached the 5th level of qi training. It is indeed a high-grade spiritual root of the gold system. This cultivation speed is like a rocket. No wonder it was able to alarm the so-called sect master. It would be great if my spiritual root qualifications were that high. In this way, you don't have to wait for the children's cultivation to feed you back, and you can practice by yourself. Ah! The young Li Yan stood in the yard, holding a soft sword made from the town and waving it in her hand. Practice strength and technique. The fighter jets were all bought by Li Tianyi from some warriors. There is no way, he is not an official immortal cultivator, so there is no way to fight. Even the only immortal cultivation technique was copied by the child Li Xing himself. Just as he was thinking about it, a figure stepped on a flying sword and slowly landed in front of him, with a boy standing behind him. Father! Li Yan subconsciously ran behind her father and watched the two outsiders warily. You are Wanbai. Chapter 11. Li Tianyi was a little surprised. Shen Wanbai had said before that she would never see him again from now on. So what did you do here today? It's impossible to kill someone and silence them. With the identities of Li Xing's father and Li Feng's father, Li Tianyi believed that Shen Wanbai would not kill him. Don't look at me like that. I didn't want to come to see you. It was Fenger who clamored to see his biological father, so I came to see you. Shen Wanbai noticed Li Tianyi's surprised gaze. Blushing slightly, he turned his face to the side and explained slightly nervously. If I had known that I would meet Li Tianyi next time, I wouldn't have spoken so cruelly at that time. It makes her a little unable to step down now. Are you my father? Just when Shen Wanbai didn't know what to say next, Li Feng walked out from behind her. Although he was relatively short in height, the aura he exuded was enough to make some ordinary immortal cultivators fear him. Having mastered the 5th level of Qi training at a young age, he will definitely be a nascent soul powerhouse in the future. If Wanbai listens to my words, then your name should be Li Feng, right? Although there is a system in place, Li Tianyi knows Li Feng's name very well. But you still have to put on a little pretense in front of everyone. Father. Hearing what Li Tianyi said, Li Feng walked up to Li Tianyi without hesitation. He bent down respectfully and called father. Shen Wanbai behind him was extremely surprised. When this child was 3 years old, he was taken away by the great elder to practice. Even her mother didn't meet Li Feng many times. On average, we meet about 10 times a year. As a result, Li Feng's relationship with her mother didn't seem to be that deep, but she was closer to the great elder. I originally thought that Fenger begged me to take him to meet his biological father, but he just wanted to settle things with Li Tianyi. Who would have thought that Li Feng had such a good attitude towards Li Tianyi? This father did not shout casually, it was full of emotion. Have you failed so much as a mother? Not bad, Fenger, you have reached the 5th level of Qi training. Li Tianyi patted Li Feng on the shoulder and said happily. Good qualifications are different. At the age of 5, you can practice the 5th level of Qi. At the age of 10, you will definitely be able to build the foundation. At the age of 18, you will definitely enter the golden elixir. The nascent soul stage is just around the corner. At present, the realms that Li Tianyi knows are Qi refining, foundation building, elixir formation, yuanying, spirit transformation, void refining, body integration, and Mahayana. The further you go in practice, the more difficult it becomes. This is nothing, father, this is my sister. After being praised by his father, Li Feng touched his head a little embarrassedly. For some reason, his father's praise made him feel more happy than his master. I am even happier than if I have achieved a breakthrough in my own realm. Li Yan is still hiding behind Li Tianyi at this moment. Li Tianyi said, strictly speaking, Yun'er is several months older than Fenger, so you should call her sister. After learning that she was the elder sister, Li Yan added weakly, I am the elder sister, not the younger sister. It turns out to be my sister. I'm sorry, sister, it was me who was abrupt. Li Feng said, perhaps the ability of a father's love as a mountain can also affect the emotions of these brothers and sisters. After learning that Li Yan was his sister, Li Feng immediately looked at her with a hint of sisterly respect in his eyes. He did not despise Li Yan because of his level. This makes Li Tianyi very satisfied. A big stone fell from my heart. At first, he was worried that these brothers and sisters would not have a good relationship, or even turn against each other in the end. After all, their father's love can only affect their attitude toward themselves. Even their brothers and sisters don't know it yet. Seeing that their relationship was so good, Li Tianyi felt relieved. Seeing the happy family, Shen Wanbai seemed to feel like an outsider at this moment. What's happening here? She is obviously Fenger's mother, okay. Now in this situation, she is the outsider. I really don't know what to say. In the following time, Li Tianyi was chatting with Li Feng, basically talking about interesting things. For example, some books that I have read. Li Feng was so mesmerized that even Shen Wanbai next to him couldn't help but look at Li Tianyi curiously. This seemingly ordinary man seems to be anything but ordinary. Wrong. Shen Wanbai suddenly noticed something. Li Tianyi's state of mind had changed. 6th level of Qi training. It's impossible. You must know that Li Tianyi is just a useless spiritual root of the 5 elements. Even if you can cultivate this kind of spiritual root to the 2nd level of Qi training, you will be considered lucky. Although it takes 5 years to go from the 2nd level of Qi training to the 6th level of Qi training, it is very slow. But the most important thing is the problem of Li Tianyi's spiritual roots. Could it be that during this period of time, Li Tianyi might have some adventures? Shen Wanbai was very confused about this. But as an immortal cultivator, she didn't ask any more questions. Everyone has their own secrets in their hearts, so why does she ask so many questions? Besides, strictly speaking, my relationship with Li Tianyi is not close. It can only be said that there is a child between them. Without Fenger, there would be no communication between them. The afternoon passed quickly. The bright moonlight fell on the courtyard, but Li Tianyi's wife Li Qingqing did not show up to disturb them. Seeing the night appear, Shen Wanbai said, Fenger, it's time for us to go back. Leaving the sect this time was an opportunity that Shen Wanbai finally applied for. Otherwise, the Great Elder would not let her take a genius with high-grade spiritual roots to wander outside. Are you going back so soon? Li Feng felt a little reluctant. In 5 years, this was the first time he saw his father. We've only been together for less than a day and it's time to leave. Time still flies too fast. Fenger, you have to remember that only those with strong strength are qualified to speak. You are too weak now and are restricted by the sect in every way. But as long as one day, your strength breaks through to the level of Jin Dan, nascent soul or even higher, can they still prevent our father and son from meeting each other? Li Tianyi touched Li Feng's head and said, I understand, father. Li Feng's eyes became firm. A special aura emanated from him. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. Shen Wanbai, who was standing behind him, was even more shocked. Others may not know what this is, but as a foundation building monk, she definitely understands it. This is the path of the immortal cultivator. Once a cultivator decides on his own path, his future cultivation will be smoother. With high-grade spiritual roots and firmness in the immortal way, it would be difficult for Fenger not to become a powerful person. Fenger, let's go. Well, father, I will go back to the sect with my mother first. Please don't worry, I will work hard to practice. I believe you, Fenger. Call out. A golden sword light flashed, and Shen Wanbai took Li Feng away. In the dark courtyard, there was a space bag shining with a faint golden light on the table. Opening the space bag, Li Tianyi saw something unexpected. As this, the technique left behind by Fenger. I was so sleepy that someone gave me a pillow. When Li Tianyi was just thinking about where to get the means of attack, his child Li Feng prepared it for him. Opening the space bag, I found that it contained 2 high-grade spiritual stones and a copy of the exercises. Absorb. Without the slightest hesitation, Li Tianyi absorbed these 2 high-grade spiritual stones and increased his lifespan by 2,000 years. This skill should have been copied by Li Feng himself, and its name is Fengyan Sword Art. Fengyan Sect. Fengyan Sword Technique. It seemed that the fighting method Fenger gave him was by no means simple. Only the core figures of Fengyan Sect can learn it. I just copied it to myself. If other people in Fengyan Sect knew about it, it would probably cause a big disaster. Li Tianyi released Fengyan Sword Art. Li Yan was not allowed to practice. Judging from Li Yan's talent, she will go to Fengyan Sect sooner or later in the future. In this case, it is better for Li Yan to learn the Qi Ju first. When he gets to the Fengyan Sect, he will naturally learn the Fengyan Sword Ju. There is no need for him to risk exposure and let Li Yan learn. Yun'er, father, I'm here. Let's go and eat. Okay, father. Late at night, when Li Tianyi and Li Qingqing were about to fall asleep hugging each other, a dark shadow appeared outside. For a moment, Li Qingqing and Li Tianyi became alert. Li Tianyi is counting on his 100 lifespan. Once the opponent is hostile to him, he will throw a Qizouchen ultimate move without saying a word. Unexpectedly, Li Tianyi was stunned as soon as the other party opened his mouth. It's me. A weak and familiar voice came. Li Qingqing and Li Tianyi looked at each other and saw a hint of surprise in each other's eyes. Giving her husband a look, Li Tianyi understood, put on a coat and walked out. Sure enough, the visitor was Shen Wanbai, who left in the evening. Miss Wanbai, may I ask why you came here in the middle of the night? Li Tianyi asked doubtfully. What on earth is going on with Shen Wanbai? We said many times that we would never see each other again, but it turned out that not long after we left, we came in the evening. The soft moonlight fell on the courtyard, as if the beautiful Shen Wanbai was dressed in a gauze, making her look extremely beautiful. Shen Wanbai blushed with embarrassment, grabbed Li Tianyi's hand and said, no matter what you do next, you just don't move. Then Li Tianyi finally understood what Shen Wanbai had come to see him for. It turned out that he needed to take care of the potted plants that he had taken care of for 5 years. However, after Shen Wanbai had no time to take care of it for 5 years, the leaves on the potted plant still grew neatly. This potted plant is growing very well, Li Tianyi said. Still, I can't take care of myself well, Shen Wanbai said with a blushing face. Then Wanbai, why did you come to me to get this potted plant? After hearing this, Li Tianyi stopped taking care of the potted plants. Seeing Li Tianyi stop, Shen Wanbai said with an unhappy expression. Although the potted plants are well built, they are short of water. I need you to water them. Must I come? Li Tianyi wanted to confirm whether anyone besides himself had touched this potted plant. Unexpectedly, Shen Wanbai was a little angry and said, "What do you think? You touched the potted plant 5 years ago. It's short of water. Who else to look for if it's not you? I'm not the kind of half-hearted owner, so I'm going to trust you." I understand, then leave it to me, Miss Wanbai. Finished. Li Tianyi was very motivated and speeded up repairing the potted plants. With the release of spiritual power, water miraculously emerged from the soil where the potted plant was located. The potted plants that seemed dry at first became radiant in an instant. Seeing that the potted plant came to life again, Shen Wanbai breathed a long sigh of relief, and the big stone in her heart finally fell. But then something happened that made her panic. The water spray seemed to show no sign of stopping and kept gushing out. What should we do, Tianyi? Shen Wanbai, who was only repairing potted plants for the second time, was a little overwhelmed for a while and had no experience at all. At the critical moment, Li Tianyi, a gardening master, stepped forward and said, "Don't panic, let me use spiritual energy to block the water." Host: Li Tianyi. Age: 44. Cultivation: 6th level of Qi training. Qualification: 5 elements waste spirit root. Remaining life: 4313. It is detected that the host is giving birth to an heir, and the partner's spiritual root is a middle-grade gold spiritual root. After 10 years of lifespan, the offspring's spiritual root becomes a middle-grade gold spiritual root. After spending 100 years of life, the spiritual root of the descendant will be a good quality spiritual root of the gold system. After spending 1,000 years of life, the spiritual root of the offspring will be a high-grade gold spiritual root. Without the slightest hesitation, Li Tianyi once again chose to spend 1,000 years of life. I already have more than 4,000 years of life, so what does it mean to waste 1,000 years of life? Ding! After spending 1,000 years of life, the spiritual root of the descendant was upgraded to a high-grade gold spiritual root. Shen Wanbai's potted plants have indeed not been watered for too long, causing the situation to be a bit serious. It finally ended in the middle of the night. Li Tianyi was sweating profusely. Repairing potted plants is really a technical job that requires concentration and concentration. Shen Wanbai was also sweating profusely. As the owner of the potted plant, she was still sweating nervously while squatting next to it. I go first. After repairing the potted plants, Shen Wanbai summoned the flying sword and left without any nostalgia. Not even a word of thanks was left for Li Tianyi. Can't a cultivator even say thank you? Li Tianyi said angrily. It's a shame that I spent most of the night helping Shen Wanbai. But fortunately, he also gained something, otherwise it would be a huge loss. Next, I just need to wait for the news. Li Lang. Li Qingqing walked out of the door at this time and said rather resentfully. There was so much noise outside that it was hard for her to sleep. Qingqing, you also know that Shen Wanbai is a strong foundation builder, and I am powerless to resist. Li Tianyi almost forgot that his wife was in the house. It looks like there will be one more potted plant to be pruned tonight. It was destined to be a sleepless night. It has been detected that the host is giving birth to an heir. The partner's spiritual root is a mortal water and fire spiritual root. Do you want to spend 10 years of your life to strengthen the offspring's talent and give birth to an heir with a medium-grade fire spiritual root? Yes, 2 months. What, Wanbai, are you pregnant again? 6th Elder Bai Kelyu looked at Shen Wanbai in shock. Shen Wanbai was about to cry but said without tears, Master. How could she know why she could get pregnant again so quickly? Logically speaking, the pregnancy rate among cultivators should not be that high. Or are you saying that you have a pregnancy-prone constitution? Wanbai, tell me honestly, is the father of the child still the same? Bai Kelyu twitched the corner of his mouth. Facing Master Bai Kelyu's inquiry, Shen Wanbai looked very embarrassed. Mingming said when he gave birth to Fenger that he would never have any contact with his father again. Who would have thought that when she brought Fenger back, she would feel a little uneasy. Secretly returned to Lijiakun again. I had that relationship with Li Tianyi. Originally, if she wasn't pregnant, it would be nothing. The question is, who could have thought that she would be pregnant again so soon, which even Shen Wanbai did not expect. Wanbai, what do you want me to say to you? Bai Keliu said helplessly. Originally, he was quite happy when he saw that Shen Wanbai gave birth to Li Feng, a child with high-grade spiritual roots. Unexpectedly, it had only been 5 years since Shen Wanbai could not help but find the father of the child, and the two had a relationship again. It happened, and it just happened that I got pregnant with a child. I'm sorry, master, it's me. I didn't control myself. Shen Wanbai apologized. She knew that master was doing this for her own good, so she was not angry. Having children is indeed a burden for female immortal cultivators. Especially immortal cultivators like Shen Wanbai, who are rapidly rising through the ranks. Bai Keliu waved his hand. Forget it, I don't mean to blame you, Wanbai, what are your plans now? I plan to give birth to the child. Shen Wanbai still did not choose to abort the child. Fenger has a high-grade spiritual root, so his next child must not be weak either. Bai Keliu saw Shen Wanbai's thoughts at a glance, and said helplessly. Wanbai, a child's talent is completely random. Unless both parents have good spiritual roots, the child's spiritual roots are unpredictable. Honestly, what kind of talent do your man have? Bai Keliu felt that his disciple was too simple. Do you really think that high-grade spiritual roots are so easy to grow? If this were the case, the sect would already have as many high-grade spiritual roots as dogs. Yes, it's a miscellaneous spirit root, Shen Wanbai said with lonely eyes. Regarding Li Tianyi's spiritual root, Shen Wanbai has done some research and found that it is a mixed spiritual root of the 5 elements. Miscellaneous spiritual roots are the worst spiritual roots, and 5 elements roots are the most difficult spiritual roots to cultivate. When the two are combined together, they are considered to be extremely poor spiritual roots. But on the contrary, if it is the top-grade spiritual root of the 5 elements, then this spiritual root is a very powerful spiritual root, basically invincible in the same realm. It just so happens that Li Tianyi has mixed spiritual roots. What? Miscellaneous spiritual roots? Wanbai, it's not that I'm attacking you, it's that. Well, if possible, let's abort this child. Bai Keliu turned around, waved his hand, and left the courtyard. It's up to Shen Wanbai to decide what to do next. The previous child with high-grade spiritual roots was their greatest blessing. The next child born will definitely have mixed spiritual roots, or even no spiritual roots. I saw the master walking away. Shen Wanbai looked back with disappointment. Caressing his own loneliness, he secretly gritted his teeth and said, Don't worry, kid, no matter what, I will give birth to you, at least to see this world. He has a mother who is in the foundation building stage and a genius brother. No matter how ordinary this child is, he can live his life happily and freely. 6 months later. Wow! The cry of a child appeared in the yard. Li Qingqing once again gave birth to a son for Li Tianyi, named Li Wu. It won't be long before a sect comes to collect children with middle-grade spiritual roots. At the same time, Fengyan sect, a child was also born. Bai Keliu arrived as scheduled with the spiritual root detection stone, while another disciple Li Xing was outside and had not returned yet. Instead, Shen Wanbai's eldest son Li Feng came. He came to see his brother or sister. He is 6 years old this year and is already a monk at the 6th level of Qi training. After a while, Shen Wanbai held out a baby boy. Before Li Feng could step forward, Bai Keliu stepped forward, picked up the baby boy's little hand, and placed it on the testing stone. Next moment, the golden light lit up again. This is another high-grade gold spiritual root. Bai Keliu was stunned. Even if the last Li Feng had a high-grade gold spiritual root, who would have thought that Shen Wanbai's next child would have a high-grade gold spiritual root? When did high-grade gold spiritual roots become so common? No, he wants to tell the Lord. Putting down the child's hand, Bai Keliu hurriedly flew towards the sect leader. Looking at Bai Keliu walking away, Shen Wanbai looked at the newborn son tenderly and said, Mom, I knew you were different. Mother, what are you going to name my little brother? A rare smile appeared on Li Feng's face, and he stood on tiptoes and approached his brother. Seeing that Li Feng liked his younger brother so much, Shen Wanbai handed over his youngest son to Li Feng. Well, I haven't asked your father about this name yet. I'll ask him later. Shen Wanbai thought that Li Tianyi was the father of the child after all. As for the name, it would be better to let Li Tianyi choose it. Shall we go see father now? Li Feng hugged his brother and said excitedly. After 8 months, can I finally see my father again? You guys only know how to meet your father. Your mother stays in the sect every day, but you have never seen your boy so active in visiting me. Shen Wanbai put her hands on her hips and said angrily. Li Feng had no explanation for this. It's impossible to say that I actually like my father more than my mother. Who made my mother resolutely give herself to the master when she had the opportunity to stay with her when she was a child. His mother was a monk at the 3rd level of foundation building, so she was more than enough to teach him. After a brief exchange, Shen Wanbai took Li Feng and their newborn child Yujian and left. The other side, in the sect's main hall. Lord Sect Leader. Good news, good news. Bai Keliu hurriedly flew into the hall and shouted. Bai Keliu, it's you again. After 6 years, what good news do you have to tell me? Ji Yu Qingxi opened her beautiful eyes and said. I really don't understand why he is always in a hurry when he is obviously a 6th elder and does not look like an elder at all. Sir, you know this, my disciple Shen Wanbai, right? Do you know that she is the mother who gave birth to a genius with high-grade spiritual roots? That's right, Lord Sect Master. What do you want to say? Isn't it your disciple who gave birth to another child with high-grade spiritual roots? Perhaps it was because Shen Wanbai gave birth to a high-grade spiritual root for the sect. Although Ji Yu Qingxi has never met Shen Wanbai, she has a very good impression of Shen Wanbai. A rare joke. As expected of the sect master, you were right, Wanbai has given birth to another disciple with high-grade spiritual roots. Yeah, I know. Huh. What? Ji Yu Qingxi was a little surprised. She knew about Shen Wanbai's spiritual roots, and she knew a better single-line middle-grade spiritual root. Being able to give birth to a high-grade spiritual root is considered very lucky. Now that I have given birth to a high-grade spiritual root, this can no longer be explained by luck, right? Could it be that Shen Wanbai's man is very talented? Bai Keliu, Shen Wanbai, do you know the talent of men? Ji Yu Qingxi calmed down and asked. I just lost my temper a little bit. I heard from Wanbai that man's talent is waste spiritual roots. Bai Keliu said awkwardly. At first he had the same idea as the sect leader. Everyone thinks that Shen Wanbai is not a simple man. But when he learned about Shen Wanbai's talent, he was completely shocked. It is a bit unbelievable that one with a middle-grade spiritual root and one with a useless spiritual root can give birth to 2 children with high-grade spiritual roots in a row. Waste spiritual roots. Are you sure? Ji Yu Qingxi narrowed her eyes slightly. This, to be honest, Lord Sect Leader, I didn't see it with my own eyes, I just heard what Wanbai said. Bai Keliu himself could not guarantee whether Shen Wanbai had deceived him. It seems that your disciple is a little distrustful of us. Ji Yu Qingxi chuckled. She believes that Shen Wanbai's man's talent is definitely not simple. Shen Wanbai said that just to protect him. In other words, that man's identity is not simple. This, Lord Sect Master, this child Wanbai has always been very well behaved. I think it is unlikely that she will lie. After much thought, Bai Keliu still chose to believe Shen Wanbai. There can be no fakeness. Wanbai had no reason to lie to his master. Ji Yu Qingxi shook her head and said, Bai Keliu, you are an old immortal cultivator yourself. Don't you still know some of the mysteries? Bai Keliu remained silent. He couldn't argue. Shen Wanbai's man is not simple. We must investigate clearly. If he has special talent, see if he can recruit Fengyan sect. If his identity is so great that our Fengyan sect cannot let go of his great Buddha, then it will be equally beneficial to Fengyan sect to befriend him. As the sect leader, all Ji Yu Qingxi's thoughts must be based on the future of the sect. She had a hunch that this man Shen Wanbai would most likely bring about transformation in Fengyan sect. I wonder what you think, Lord Sect Master? Bai Keliu asked with a sigh. Sorry, Wanbai, my master really has no choice. Ji Yu Qingxi dragged her long light blue skirt and walked down the stairs step by step. The long skirt seemed to be supported by spiritual power, so that the long skirt did not really touch the ground. Call Shen Wanbai here, and I will inquire personally. Ji Yu Qingxi did not give the task of questioning to Bai Keliu. They were trying, maybe Bai Keliu would protect Shen Wanbai. To be on the safe side, it's better to do it yourself. Yes, Bai Keliu reluctantly handed over and left. But what they didn't know was that Shen Wanbai had already left the sect and went to Lija village. Lijiakun is not very far from Fengyan sect. Coupled with the fact that Shen Wanbai used his spiritual power to fly with his sword, he could reach Lija village in less than an hour. Inside the courtyard, Li Tianyi's home was hung with red lanterns to celebrate the birth of another son. Seeing the people drinking below, Shen Wanbai did not go down to disturb them. By the time evening comes, most people have left. Shen Wanbai took Li Feng and her youngest son to the yard. Li Tianyi, who possesses the 6th level of Qi training, sensed Shen Wanbai's aura. Wanbai and Fenger, this is. Li Tianyi was very happy to see the two of them. At the same time, he also saw a baby in Li Feng's arms. I didn't even think that we could conceive one of our children just by touching a guy like you. It's true. Shen Wanbai looked at Li Tianyi with resentment. This hit rate is really amazing. Isn't it said that it is difficult for cultivators to get pregnant? Have you been deceived? Li Tianyi smiled sheepishly. It is impossible to say that because of the existence of the system, as long as he chooses to consume his life, the child will be 100% pregnant. For Li Tianyi now, he must ensure that he can give birth to a child every time. He lacks strength too much. You must have more children and improve your own strength to become faster. Father, this is my younger brother. My mother and I are here to find you a name for my younger brother. Seeing the two of them chatting about other things, Li Feng took a step forward with his brother in his arms and explained his purpose. I learned that I was here to give him a name for my child. Li Tianyi thought for a moment and said, just name the child. Li Shu. Li Shu, I understand. From now on, he will be our child Li Shu. A smile appeared on Shen Wanbai's face. Brother Li Shu. Li Feng silently recited the name. Don't worry, as long as your brother is here, he will definitely protect you. The family chatted briefly in the yard for a while, and Shen Wanbai took the two children back to the sect. After all, they came to Lijiakun privately this time. Have to go back early. Otherwise, the sect will definitely send people to look for it. Never underestimate the importance of a high-grade spiritual root genius. Strength is still far from enough. Li Tianyi said to himself. This time Shen Wanbai didn't come back in the middle of the night, maybe she was a little scared. Afraid that I might get pregnant again. Fengyan sect. Shen Wanbai had just returned to the sect when he was called into the main hall by the sect leader. The child Li Shu also hugged him. Under the witness of the 6 elders and the sect master, the child was given a spiritual root test again. After seeing that it was indeed a high-grade spiritual root of the water gold system, everyone showed joy. Great, another genius. In this case, our Fengyan sect will have 5 geniuses with high-grade spiritual roots. There are only 2 or 3 other sects. When our disciples grow up, they will definitely become overlords in the future. Don't be too happy too early. Geniuses are only considered geniuses when they grow up. The 3rd elder is right. Lord sect leader, what are you going to do next? Except for the sect leader Ji Yu Qingxi and the 6th elder Bai Keliu. The other 5 elders are all in the golden elixir stage. Your name is Shen Wanbai, right? Ji Yu Qingxi opened her mouth, and the noisy elders instantly fell silent. Yes, Lord sect master. Shen Wanbai was a little nervous holding Li Shu. This is the 2nd time that he has met the rumored sect leader. The first time was when the 6th elder accepted him as his disciple. You have done a good job, Shen Wanbai, and you have added 2 geniuses to the sect. Tell us what reward you want. Ji Yu Qingxi said. No matter what, Shen Wanbai contributed 2 geniuses to the sect, which is worthy of reward. The mother of 2 geniuses still needs to be taken good care of. If you don't respect someone else's mother, you will be the first to be destroyed when that person's genius grows up. When Shen Wanbai heard the sect leader asking what reward he wanted, Shen Wanbai was a little unsure of how to answer. Don't be anxious, Shen Wanbai, think slowly, don't be anxious. Ji Yu Qingxi smiled softly. After letting the other elders see it, they all looked at each other. The sect leader who usually looks cold can actually smile so gently. Genius mothers are treated differently. Well, Sect leader, if possible, I would prefer you to reward me with spiritual stones. Shen Wanbai remembered something. At that time, when he was pruning potted plants with Li Tianyi said that he still needed spiritual stones. This sentence made Shen Wanbai deeply remember it in his heart. It just so happens that she doesn't have what she needs at the moment, so she can help Li Tianyi get some spiritual stones. After all, Li Tianyi still deserves a share of the credit for giving birth to 2 children with high-grade spiritual roots. Without Li Tianyi, she would not be able to have a baby by herself. Spiritual stones. No problem. These are 100 high-grade spiritual stones that I give to you personally, and 100 high-grade spiritual stones that I give to you on behalf of the sect. Ji Yu Qingxi waved her sleeves grandly. A space bag appeared in front of Shen Wanbai. There are 200 high-grade spiritual stones placed inside, equivalent to 20,000 low-grade spiritual stones. Thank you, Lord Sect Master. Shen Wanbai put it away with a storage ring. Very good. With these spiritual stones around, Li Tianyi must be very happy. Unknowingly, Shen Wanbai didn't even notice that Li Tianyi was quietly in her heart. Well, no need to thank you much, you deserve this. So, Wanbai, I wonder if you can reveal the identity of the child's father. Seeing that the relationship is almost close. In the next sentence, Ji Yu Qingxi named her reason for calling Shen Wanbai here. This was what she wanted to know. The father of the child. Lord Sect Leader, I. Shen Wanbai paused for a moment. She doesn't want to expose Li Tianyi to everyone. Worried that the sect leader would be unfavorable to Li Tianyi. Don't worry, Shen Wanbai, he is the father of 2 geniuses and your husband. I will never hurt him. Ji Yu Qingxi can guarantee this. No matter what Shen Wanbai's man is, she can't hurt him. Unless his sect no longer wants those 2 high-grade spiritual root geniuses. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been stupid enough to kill the genius father. I know you won't hurt him, Lord Sect Master, but... This was not what Shen Wanbai was afraid of. What she fears is that Li Tianyi will be dissatisfied with herself. Who knows if Li Tianyi doesn't like people coming to him? What will I do if I make Li Tianyi unhappy? Seeing this, Ji Yu Qingxi could only nod her head and said, okay, if you don't believe what I say, just let it go. Just pretend I didn't say it. Go down and rest. Thank you, Lord Sect Master. Shen Wanbai hugged the child and left. Fenger has learned from the past. This time Li Shu said that she would take it with him to grow up. In case the child grows up and has no affection for his mother. Seeing Shen Wanbai leaving, Ji Yu Qingxi said softly, Jingwei. I'm here, Lord Sect Master. Second Elder Meng Jingwei stood up and said. Follow Shen Wanbai. The words just fell. Meng Jingwei disappeared into the hall. Baek Lu, don't blame me for sending Meng Jingwei to spy on your disciples. I'm very curious about the man behind Shen Wanbai. Ji Yu Qingxi said to Bai Keliu. She needs to follow Shen Wanbai to find the man behind it. I know, Lord Sect Master. People have to bow their heads under the eaves. Bai Keliu wanted to help his apprentice again. That is because he is too weak to speak, and has no right to speak at all. Hilltop. Shen Wanbai was not stupid. She knew very well that since the sect master asked, he would never let her go so easily. After thinking about it, she called her junior brother Li Xing. Senior sister, what do you want from me? Not long ago, Li Xing, who had just completed his sect mission, returned to the mountain. Then I heard the good news that my senior sister had given birth to another child. Before he had time to see his senior sister, the senior sister took the initiative to find him. Junior brother, do you want to know who the father of the child is? Shen Wanbai gritted her teeth and said. She can't get close to Li Tianyi for the time being. But Li Xing can. Absolutely no one can imagine that their man is Li Xing's father, an ordinary person with a useless spirit root of the 5 elements. The father of the child. Senior sister, I want to know what this is doing. Could it be that the father of the child is my father? Li Xing joked. He wanted to know what it was doing. I'm afraid the biggest similarity between myself and the other person's children is that they both have the surname Li. I won't hide it from you now, Li Xing. In fact, the father of the child is Li Tianyi, which is your father. For fear of being heard by others, Shen Wanbai deliberately lowered her voice. Quote. Senior sister, are you kidding? There was a moment of silence. Then Li Xing asked in disbelief. The problem is that the senior sister's personality doesn't seem to be the kind of person who loves to joke. No, what senior sister said is true. Seeing Li Xing a little unbelievable, Shen Wanbai had no choice but to tell Li Xing exactly what happened. After learning that his senior sister was drugged and had a relationship with his father, Li Xing finally understood. No wonder the senior sister had contact with her father. It turned out that everything was just a coincidence. Without this incident, the senior sister would probably have no contact with her father in her entire life. So this is my younger brother. By the way, so is Li Feng. Li Xing's eyes looked at Li Shu with a bit more emotion. Who would have thought that besides Li Shui'er, he would have two younger brothers in the sect? Yes, Li Xing, so I need you to do me a favor now. I have a letter that I need you to send to your father together next time. Shen Wanbai said. No problem, by the way, senior sister, no, it shouldn't be senior sister. You are my father's woman, so I should call you, aunt. Li Xing said after sorting out the relationship. Quote. You can call me whatever you want. Anyway, I'll leave the letter to you. Shen Wanbai gave Li Xing a roll of his eyes. Is this the time to care about your title? Did Li Xing understand what he said? After a while, Meng Jingwei, who had just arrived here not long ago, didn't take it seriously. Senior sister gave birth to a baby, and junior brother came to see if it was okay. What she didn't know was, after Li Xing left, he chose to fly with his sword to Lija village. Haven't been back for a long time. This time I happened to have something important to do, so I went back to see my father. Some things would be more clear in person. He was reassured that no one would follow and doubt him. Anyone who knows him well knows that he is very filial and will return to Lijiakun to meet his father whenever he has the opportunity. An hour later. Father, Xinger, why are you here? Today, Li Tianyi is holding her child Li Yuan in the yard and accompanying her daughter Li Yan. Then he saw Li Xing, a child he hadn't seen for a long time, descending from the sky with a flying sword. Now Li Xing is also a monk at the third level of foundation building. The further the realm goes, the harder it becomes to practice. Li Xing's practice speed obviously slowed down. The middle grade spiritual roots are still a bit unsatisfactory. Golden elixir may be the end of Li Xing. Unless something unexpected happens, it is impossible to become a nascent soul in this life. It is still possible to have good grade spiritual roots. The top grade spiritual roots are the powerful nascent soul that are scheduled to be in the future. Long time no see, father. Li Xing said. Brother. Li Yan shouted obediently. Although she didn't have much contact with this brother, perhaps because of the same father and mother, the relationship between her and Li Xing was not as unfamiliar as Li Feng. When she saw Li Feng, she would still be a little shy and hide behind Li Tianyi's legs. Not at all when facing Li Xing. Sister, how are you practicing with your father? Do you want me to take you to Fengyan sect to practice? Li Xing happily stepped forward and touched his sister's hair. He could tell at a glance that his sister had reached the third level of qi training. With such a fast speed, Li Yan's talent must not be weak, and it cannot be said to be the same as his own. Fengyan sect will definitely accept this disciple. Li Yan was happy at first, then shook her head and said, No, brother, it's better for me to stay with my father. Compared with the previous daughter Li Shui'er, Li Tianyi's third daughter is more willing to stick to her father. It's okay, it depends on your own wishes, sister. By the way, father, where is mother? Li Xing asked. Your mother is still embroidering in the room. I heard my father's reply. Li Xing entered the room, chatted a few words with his mother Li Qingqing, and expressed his longing for her. Then he walked out the door. When he saw Li Xing, he seemed to have something to tell him. Li Tianyi handed the child Li Yuan in her arms to Li Yan and asked her to take her brother back to the house to stay with her mother. Seeing that his younger brothers and sisters had all gone in, Li Xing entered the main body. Father, it's like this, within the sect. Li Xing quickly told Shen Wanbai's situation and at the same time handed the letter to Li Tianyi. Li Tianyi took the letter and read it carefully. In addition to missing Shen Wanbai also mentioned in the letter what the sect leader Ji Yu Qingxi told him. Do you doubt yourself? Li Tianyi was not surprised. This is normal. Shen Wanbai's talent is obvious, but it is just a middle-grade spiritual root. Giving birth to a child with high-grade spiritual roots is considered an amazing blessing. As a result, the second child was born, which made them doubt the identity of the child's father. If the child's father is very talented, there is a high probability of giving birth to a child with high-grade spiritual roots. After all, except for Shen Wanbai and her children, no one else in the sect knew any information about him. How about your sect master? Li Tianyi put away the letter and asked. Sect master. To be honest, father, I have only met that sect master once, but I heard from those in the sect that the sect master is a relatively kind person. I heard that 50 years ago, when a guy from another sect came to provoke Fengyan sect, he was only given a lesson by her and his life was not harmed. Li Xing told Li Tianyi all the information he knew. But this information is all hearsay. Alas, his talent is only a middle-grade spiritual root, and it is almost impossible to get close to the sect master. People who can come into contact with the sect leader every day. Only the elders are direct disciples of the sect elders. Li Xing and Shen Wanbai are Bai Keliu's direct disciples, but due to Bai Keliu's own realm, their status is not very high. Naturally, there are not many opportunities to see the sect leader. Are you nice? Li Tianyi now has a big idea brewing in his mind. Judging from my own level and qualifications, it will be extremely difficult to find a woman with high qualifications in the future. If Shen Wanbai hadn't had an accident himself, there would have been no relationship between him and Shen Wanbai. Li Tianyi is very self-aware of this. But if you don't look for good qualifications, but just look for ordinary women, the children you give birth to will be too mediocre. Children are many and weak. Not only will it not be able to help him, it will also become a hindrance to him. Like Li Feng and Li Shu, as geniuses with high-grade spiritual roots, they don't need him to take care of them. The Fengyan sect rushed to take care of them and help them grow up. In the future, it will become a major pillar of Fengyan sect. There is no need to worry about encountering danger at all. Xinger, when you go back to Fengyan sect, tell Shen Wanbai not to expose me for the time being. Li Tianyi had an idea in mind. I understand, father. Li Xing nodded solemnly, and then continued. By the way, father, my aunt asked me to give these spiritual stones to you. The space ring flashed with a bright light, and 200 shining high-grade spiritual stones appeared in front of Li Tianyi. In an instant, Li Tianyi's pupils were illuminated by the light of the spirit stone. These are all high-grade spiritual stones, Li Tianyi said in surprise. Is that girl Shen Wanbai so rich? Yes, father. I heard from my aunt that it was given to her by the sect master. She thanks her for giving birth to 2 geniuses with high-grade spiritual roots for the sect. Li Xing explained. Li Tianyi nodded thoughtfully and waved his robe. All the high-grade spiritual stones were put into the system space by him and began to be absorbed. After absorbing these high-grade spiritual stones, Li Tianyi's lifespan exceeded the 20,000 mark. Even if he doesn't practice anything now, he can live for 20,000 years. You must know that a powerful person in the realm of transformation into a god will only have a lifespan of 10,000 years if there are no treasures of heaven, materials and earth to increase his lifespan. Regardless of his strength, he has surpassed the great powers of the god transformation stage in another aspect. This made Li Tianyi extremely happy and took Li Xing to stay at home for the night. Then Li Xing spent the day at home. At dawn tomorrow, he will fly back to the sect with his sword. Upon noticing that her child was leaving, Li Tianyi crawled out of bed early. Standing in the yard, watching Li Xing's back flying away with his sword. Li Lang, Li Qingqing's voice came from behind at this time. Her face is still so beautiful, the only bad thing is that time has left a slight mark on her face. Li Qingqing is now 40 years old. Although reaching the 3rd level of Qi training did not improve her lifespan, it at least delayed her aging a little. Make her look like a beautiful woman in her 30s. Li Tianyi has feelings for Li Qingqing, which are much heavier than Shen Wanbai. There is more joy than Shen Wanbai. Qingqing, I'm going to take a concubine. Well, Li Lang, if you want to take a concubine, just take one. You don't need to tell me. Li Qingqing nestled in Li Tianyi's arms. It's time to leave Lijiakun and develop in the town. The village is mostly filled with ordinary girls, who will restrict their own development. With the system space available, Li Tianyi easily packed everything he needed to bring. After bidding farewell to fellow villagers, Li Tianyi's family set out on their way to the town. The nearest town to Lijia village is Hunyuan City. Hunyuan City is controlled by 3 families and 1 city manager. Although they are all cultivating families, their background is far inferior to that of the 5 sects and 3 sects. Therefore, if there are talented disciples, they will be sent to the sect to practice. When you become a strong man, you can return benefits to your family. On the road, Li Tianyi's family still used a horse-drawn carriage to enter the city. His own cultivation has reached the 6th level of Qi training, and he can already fly with a sword for a short period of time. But Li Tianyi can't do it yet when he takes his whole family to fly with a sword. We haven't arrived at Hunyuan City yet. The spiritual energy is exhausted first. Just when it was very close to Hunyuan City, there were sounds of fighting outside. Li, Mr. Li, there seems to be someone fighting in front. What should we do? The groom who kindly sent Li Tianyi and his family to the establishment asked in fear. He is just an ordinary person. If the guys fighting in front were robbers, their group would be doomed. Li Lang, don't panic, leave it to me. Li Tianyi patted Li Qingqing's little hand to comfort his wife and children. He opened the curtain and walked out. Mr. Li, you. It doesn't matter, Uncle Li, just leave it to me. After all, Li Tianyi is now a monk at the 6th level of Qi training. Coupled with this is the ability to explode into the great perfection of Qi training. In such a remote place, Li Tianyi is still confident that he can solve some crises. Normally, he would definitely not have interfered. The problem is now that this group of people is blocking his way. If he doesn't solve it, he will definitely come back to trouble him when the group fight is over. Spiritual energy fluctuations. As soon as he walked in, Li Tianyi was keenly aware of the spiritual energy fluctuations of the immortal cultivators fighting. It seems that they are not ordinary people, but a group of immortal cultivators. Li Tianyi stopped slightly. At this time, you need to be vigilant to avoid being a strong foundation builder. Ahead, do you people know my identity? A woman in red holding a long sword shouted sharply. Of course, Miss Wang, we will take action against you only after we know your identity. 5 men in black are surrounding a woman. Judging from the spiritual energy fluctuations of the men in black, their realm is probably around the 6th or 7th level of Qi training. The state of the woman in red is at the 7th level of Qi training. Barely able to temporarily resist the siege of 5 people. However, her aura was getting weaker and weaker, and it looked like the spiritual energy in her body was about to be exhausted. Dozens of corpses fell around. You guys. Wang Shuangyao gritted her teeth. Waves of anger appeared on his delicate face. She was originally the eldest lady of the Wang family in Hunyuan City. Originally, this trip out of the city was to take the guards out to hunt monsters and gain some practical experience for myself. Who would have thought that they would be ambushed when they came back? I wanted to use my identity to force them back. I didn't expect that they were coming for me. No wonder he suddenly attacked her team without saying a word. She's dying. Solve the battle quickly, otherwise it will be bad if someone comes. Be prepared to take her down in one go. Superior. Just when the 5 men in black were about to kill Wang Shuangyao in one fell swoop. Fellow Taoist, please stop. A sudden sound interrupted the rhythm of the 5 people's attack. Wang Shuangyao's eyes lit up, so she seized the opportunity and used her dexterous footwork to climb over the heads of the group of people and arrived in front of Li Tianyi. Fellow Taoist, I am Wang Shuangyao, the young lady of the Wang family. Are you at the 6th level of Qi training? Wang Shuangyao originally thought that the person coming was a strong man. Otherwise, where would you have the courage to intervene in this battle? Unexpectedly, Wang Shuangyao was slightly disappointed after sensing the opponent's 6th level of Qi training. 6th level of Qi training. Hey, boy, get away from me if you are sensible. This is not something you can interfere with. What nonsense are you talking to him about? Let's kill him together. Don't let Wang Shuangyao escape. If he runs away, we won't be able to walk around in circles. Kill. The 5 men in black adjusted their breath slightly. Looking at each other, they quickly decided to kill Li Tianyi and Wang Shuangyao here together. Fellow Taoist, please leave quickly. They are coming for me. I hope that after you escape to Hunyuan City, you can explain my situation to the head of the Wang family. Wang Shuangyao didn't want to implicate this innocent passerby. He raised his sword again and stood in front of Li Tianyi. I hope I can delay for a while so that Li Tianyi can escape from danger. Just bring the news to the Wang family in Hunyuan City. As for whether she can survive, Wang Shuangyao has given up hope. Li Tianyi briefly glanced at Wang Shuangyao. In this situation, how could the 5 of them escape when surrounded? The best way is to kill them all. There happen to be 5 of them right in front of me. Boom! Li Tianyi waved his hand, and a powerful spiritual power was swung out, forming a crescent-shaped light blue light blade. Not good. It's the breath of Qi practice Zochan. He's pretending to be a pig and eating the tiger. Ah, don't want. I can't run. Ah. The 5 people in midair had no time to dodge, and their waists were cut off ruthlessly by this crescent moon. The upper body and the lower body were cut apart at the waist, and fell to the ground feebly. Bloody pools of blood emerged on the tawny land. So strong. Wang Shuangyao's pupils shrank and she froze on the spot. It turned out that this person turned out to be a monk who practiced Qi Zochan. The cultivation aura of the 6th level of Qi training before was probably the opponent's method to cover up his cultivation. Hello, girl, my name is Li Tianyi. I am from Lijia village. I plan to go to Hunyuan City with my wife and children today. I didn't expect to meet you here, girl. Li Tianyi smiled like a spring breeze and introduced herself to Wang Shuangyao. Look at him looking like a gentle young man. Who would have thought that when he casually killed those 5 people before, he didn't even blink an eye. Li Tianyi, oh, hello. Fellow Taoist Li, thank you for your help this time. If it weren't for you, I would have died long ago. Wang Shuangyao came back to her senses and said gratefully. There is no perfect path for everyone, and I really do have a bit of luck on my side. In this kind of wild place where no one usually sees people, you can meet a Taoist friend who practices Qi and Zochan. I'm so lucky. It's okay. I'm sure other fellow Taoists will help me if they encounter this problem. Wang Shuangyao, the young lady of the Wang family. Li Tianyi heard what Wang Shuangyao said before. Although he didn't know Wang Shuangyao's status in the Wang family, he knew that there were 3 major families in Hunyuan City, one of which was the Wang family. There is nothing wrong with making good friends with the other party. Forget it. If it were anyone else, I'm afraid it would be too late to hide. Wang Shuangyao still knows the character and strength of other ordinary people very well. Those who don't have the strength don't dare to come at all, and those who have the strength are afraid of getting into trouble. Li Tianyi smiled but said nothing. Wang Shuangyao looked Li Tianyi up and down. This man looked so young, he looked to be in his early 20s. To be able to practice to the perfection of Qi training, one must be very talented. But I heard him say that he went to Hunyuan City with his wife and children. Does he have a family at such a young age? Hey, by the way, I heard you said you were going to Hunyuan City. Can you take me along? Don't worry, I will definitely thank you when I get to Hunyuan City. Wang Shuangyao opened his mouth and said, she must repay this kindness. Thank you, didn't you just say that? Taking you into the city is just a piece of cake. The two chatted very well. While chatting and walking, they came to the carriage. The groom asked worriedly, and Li Tianyi just said it was okay, which made the groom heave a deep sigh of relief. Fortunately, the space inside the carriage is quite large. It can definitely accommodate one more Wang Shuangyao. This is my wife, Li Qingqing, and they are my children, Li Yan and Li Yuan. Li Tianyi introduced the identities of his wife and children. Hello. Wang Shuangyao looked at Li Tianyi's wife and children. No way, that daughter looks 6 or 7 years old. So Li Tianyi is more than 20 years old. Otherwise, how could there be such a big child? It's true that people cannot be judged by their appearance. But if you are in your 30s, even if you are a cultivator, you will definitely have traces of time on your face. Could it be that Li Tianyi's state is even more powerful than the power he just felt? Yes, that must be the case. Wang Shuangyao thought to himself. It seems that I made a mistake. I was not a fellow Taoist, but a senior. Looking at Wang Shuangyao with lively eyes in front of him, Li Tianyi knew what this guy was thinking. But he didn't expose it. The higher the other party thinks of himself, the better it is for him. Hunyuan City. Mr. Li, I will deliver it to the gate of the city first. The groom turned around and said. After what happened today, he was afraid that he would encounter thieves when he went back later. It's really scary. Ordinary people like him are no match. Thank you very much, Uncle Li. Li Tianyi smiled. It's okay, drive. Uncle Li quickly drove away in the carriage. Senior, I wonder if you have somewhere to go. If not, please come to Wang's house with me. I have not yet repaid your kindness. As soon as Wang Shuangyao got out of the car, she invited Li Tianyi. The mysterious strong man. If the Wang family can be recruited in the future, it will definitely take the Wang family to a higher level and even swallow up the other two families. The most important thing is that Li Tianyi is his benefactor. Wang Shuangyao needs to return the favor as soon as possible, otherwise he will always feel guilty. Since it is your invitation, Miss Wang, of course I will not refuse it. Li Tianyi went there because of Wang Shuangyao's identity. The other party invited him to Wang's house, and he was eager to do so. You can rely on the power of the Wang family to let you understand the situation in Hunyuan City first. When the time comes, he can just spend money to buy a mansion. The gold and silver treasures in this world are nothing to Li Tianyi. Wang family, miss, this senior is my benefactor. You must take good care of him. If you are a little neglectful, you will know the consequences. Yes, please don't worry, miss, I will never neglect my guests. Hearing what Wang Shuangyao said, the servant was so frightened that he nodded repeatedly. So he took Li Tianyi and his family to the unoccupied guest room to rest. Main hall. Father. Oh, it's Yaoer, you're back. How do you feel about hunting monsters? You're not hurt, right? A very angry man was sitting on a chair, playing with a little white bird in a cage. Stop talking, Dad, you almost lost sight of my daughter. Wang Shuangyao quickly briefly explained what happened. After a while, bang, this is unreasonable. Someone actually dares to attack my daughter, Wang De. Wang De, the head of the Wang family, slapped the table angrily and stood up. The birds in the cage were so startled that they chirped and flapped their wings. You don't need to think about it to know that one of the two families must have done it. The relationship between their three families has long been incompatible. Everyone wants to kill the other first so that they can take over everything the other has. However, the disaster does not bring harm to the family. This has always been the default thing of the three of them. I didn't expect that someone would dare to set such a precedent. By the way, where is that senior? Wang De asked. His realm is at the 9th level of Qi training, and the heads of the other two families are also at the same realm. Only the city lord is a foundation building monk. Only then can we suppress three family heads at the same time. Relax in the guest room. Lead the way, I want to meet this senior. Guest room. After a bumpy afternoon, Li Qingqing felt a little tired, so she took her youngest son Li Shu to sleep. Li Yan continued to practice with her legs crossed. After being encouraged by her elder brother Li Xing, she understood that she had to practice harder in order to better accompany her father. Li Tianyi stayed with his daughter to prevent her from going astray in her practice. Ding! The fourth son Li Feng broke through the 8th level of Qi training and returned 1% of his cultivation level. Break! In an instant, Li Tianyi reached the 7th level of Qi training. Originally, with the support of his eldest son Li Xing during the foundation period, his cultivation level was just one step away from reaching the 7th level of Qi training. Now Li Feng's breakthrough brought him directly to the 8th level of Qi training. It is indeed a top-grade spiritual root, and its cultivation speed can be described as a rocket. If this was stronger than high-grade spiritual roots, wouldn't it be even more perverted? Li Tianyi couldn't believe how fast a genius with stronger spiritual roots could cultivate. Somebody is coming. Li Tianyi heard the footsteps of the visitor. Looking back, I saw a middle-aged man walking in with a steady and energetic pace. You are the senior who saved my little daughter, Senior Li, right? Wang De came forward with a smile on his face. The tone was extremely respectful. Even though he felt that Li Tianyi's aura was only at the 7th level of Qi training, he still did not underestimate him at all. His daughter told him, a casual blow is the power of Qi Zouchen. This level of power is definitely not something that can be used at the 7th level of Qi training. Whether it is a treasure or not remains to be determined. But no matter what, he is the benefactor who saved his daughter. No matter what Wang De said, he had to respect others, so it was impossible to appear arrogant. Just call me Li Tianyi. You must be Wang Shuangyao's father, Wang De Wang, the head of the Wang family. I have long admired my name. Oh, Senior Li has heard of my story. No, but your face has stories written all over it. Ha ha ha, Senior Li is joking. Wang De laughed. Just think of it as a joke from Li Tianyi. Little did they know that what Li Tianyi said was true. There is a knife mark on Wang De's right face, and he looks like a man with a story. I wonder what Senior Li means when he comes to Hunyuan City. After chatting briefly for a while, Wang De went straight to the topic. I plan to live in Hunyuan City for a while. I wonder if the Wang family has any recommended mansions. Don't worry, I can pay for it. Li Tianyi told her why she came. These are all secondary. What is more important is to get a wife and have children and increase one's own strength. No problem. It's a complete trivial matter to me. Wang De patted his chest and said. The next day, after staying at Wang De's house for one night, the other party said that he had found a nice mansion. He was once a wealthy man, but unfortunately he got involved in gambling and lost all his money. Even his mansion was escorted out. With the help of the Wang family, Li Tianyi quickly bought the mansion smoothly. Looking at the yard full of weeds, he spent some more money to buy a maid to come back to clean and take care of his wife and children. Soon, all debris has been dealt with cleanly. Li Tianyi spent money to put up concubinage advertisements. I learned that Li Tianyi was a nobleman who had just bought this mansion. Countless women who thought they looked beautiful flocked to her. But Li Tianyi doesn't mess around and takes everything as ordered. What he wants is female talent. If you have no talent, giving birth to a child is a complete waste of your life. Fortunately, Li Tianyi asked Li Xing for a spiritual stone to test his spiritual roots. Although the town has people from sects coming to recruit disciples every few years, some are always left behind. Li Tianyi planned to take advantage of this gap period to find a wife with spiritual roots. Hard work pays off, and big cities are great. On the third day only, a woman's spiritual roots were tested and showed low-grade wood-type spiritual roots. May I have your name? Li Tianyi said happily. Finally come. With so many people, it is impossible for the sect to take away all those with spiritual roots at once. My name is Yang Yan, sir. Yang Yan's face turned rosy when she saw Li Tianyi's handsome face. I thought the new master was an old man, but I didn't expect him to be such a handsome and young master. This gave Yang Yan a great surprise. Good name, sit over there, next one. Li Tianyi continues to screen. It's a pity that no woman will be talented in the future. To be honest, there is an ordinary one, but his appearance is still a lot different. Coupled with the fact that it had mortal spiritual roots, Li Tianyi didn't like it. As long as the opponent has high-grade spiritual roots and looks a little different, it's fine. Knight, master. Yang Yan shyly turned her face sideways, revealing her beautiful profile. Because she was a concubine, and because Li Tianyi had just arrived in Hunyuan City not long ago, she didn't have many friends. There is no need to arrange wedding banquets or anything like that. So just jump into the topic. Yang Yan frowned slightly at first. As time passed, the frown gradually relaxed, and bursts of mist appeared in front of his eyes. Ding! It is detected that the host is giving birth to offspring, please start your choice. After 10 years of lifespan, the offspring spiritual root becomes a middle-grade gold spiritual root. After spending 100 years of life, the spiritual root of the descendant will be a good quality spiritual root of the gold system. It takes 100 years. Li Tianyi can improve the realm of his children, but it must be based on his wife's spiritual roots, which can improve the spiritual roots of 2 qualities at most. This is why he needs a wife with good spiritual roots. A night of silence. The next day, Yang Yan woke up from the warm embrace. Looking at the charming Yang Yan, Li Tianyi felt that her body was moving again. Wait a minute, master, it's daytime. It's okay, I can see more clearly during the day. Wang family, you mean that Senior Li started marrying wives and having children after he came to Hunyuan City? Yes, master of the family. Well, I understand, go down. Yes. After waving his servants to leave, Wang De's face was full of doubts. Did Senior Li come to Hunyuan City just to get a wife and have children? Wang Dejun had asked Li Tianyi before about his purpose of coming. Li Tianyi said confidently that he came here just to get a wife and have children. I thought it was Senior Li's joke, but now it seems to be true. Dad, according to clues, the person who assassinated me should be the Chen family. What are you thinking? Wang Shuangyao strode in at this time and looked at his distracted father suspiciously. Oh, it's nothing, just something about Senior Li. Wang De said. Senior Li, hey, father, tell me, what is it about Senior Li? Wang Shuangyao immediately became energetic when he heard that it was related to Senior Li. To be honest, she has great feelings about Li Tianyi. Wang De quickly told Wang Shuangyao the information he had found. Wang Shuangyao was stunned when she learned that Li Tianyi was looking for a concubine. Isn't it possible? Does Senior Li seem like someone who would do such a thing? Wang Shuangyao said in disbelief. Whether it's true or not, you'll know if you go and see it. Wang De said angrily. Could it be that my daughter has a crush on Senior Li? That's not okay. Senior Li's realm is still unclear. If he is an old monster with a high realm, wouldn't he suffer? Wang Shuangyao felt that what her father said made sense, and immediately ran towards the Li family's mansion. After a while, we arrived in front of this mansion. When she saw a group of women queuing up and the sticker on the door, she was convinced that Senior Li was really looking for a concubine. Think about Senior Li's high-definition strength and handsome face. Is it necessary to rely on this method to recruit concubines? After much thought, Wang Shuangyao couldn't figure it out. I felt like I had some free time at the moment, so I decided to take a look. Inside the mansion. Next one. Next person. What a pity. Next one. Low-grade earth element spiritual roots. Okay, sit down, sit down, sit down. A middle-grade fire-type spiritual root. Dare I ask, miss? It turns out it's you, Miss Wang. I saw the spiritual root detection stone emitting a dazzling red light. Li Tianyi immediately raised his head excitedly and was about to ask the woman's name. When he saw Wang Shuangyao's appearance, he was slightly stunned, but then quickly regained his composure. It's me, Senior Li. I'm here just to see what you're doing here. You're a woman who needs spiritual roots to take a concubine. Senior Li, are you practicing some evil technique of harvesting yin and replenishing yang? Wang Shuangyao pretended to be scared and covered her mouth with her hands. Do you think I am someone who practices evil arts? Li Tianyi chuckled. For monks who have practiced evil arts, their spiritual energy will become very evil. Once they fight, they cannot hide it at all. Wang Shuangyao had witnessed Li Tianyi's previous battle with his own eyes, so he was not sure whether it was an evil act or not. I was just joking with Li Tianyi. The matter of testing the spiritual roots was left to other maids, and Li Tianyi accompanied Wang Shuangyao to the deserted courtyard to chat. Senior Li, do you like children very much? From Wang Shuangyao's perspective, Li Tianyi didn't look like the kind of person who lusted after women. For example, the spirit of a womanizer would not be as solid as Li Tianyi's. Yes, I prefer children, but I can't always let my wife Li Qingqing have children. I just want to find more women. Following Wang Shuangyao's words, Li Tianyi continued. Just gave him a reason. That's it. Wang Shuangyao nodded thoughtfully. I didn't expect Senior Li to like children so much. I just don't know if he will. No, what are you thinking about? Speaking of Miss Wang, I didn't expect that you would have a middle-grade fire element spiritual root. With such a good spiritual root, if you go to a sect to practice, your cultivation speed will definitely be faster. Li Tianyi said doubtfully. Wang Shuangyao is 18 years old and is at the 7th level of Qi training. If it were other mid-level spiritual root monks who were practicing in the sect and had the resources of the sect, they should have already reached the 9th level of Qi training or even the great perfection of Qi training. Compared with the sect, the resources of the own family in Hunyuan City are still far behind. Alas, Wang Shuangyao sighed. Senior Li, you don't know something. I have a sister who is a genius with high-grade spiritual roots. She has joined the Thunder Sword sect long ago. High-grade spiritual root. I wonder what your sister's name is, Miss Wang. Li Tianyi instantly became energetic. Top-grade spiritual roots are good. He knows that he may not be destined to the other party, but he will eventually understand him. What if? Senior Li, you're welcome. Just call me Shuangyao. My sister's name is Wang Langlang. Wang Shuangyao replied. She didn't think about Li Tianyi in that direction. During the conversation with Wang Shuangyao, Li Tianyi knew the reason. When he gave birth to the two sisters, Wang De discussed it with his wife and family. Those with good qualifications are sent to sects with good resources to practice, and after they return from their studies, they help the family. Those with slightly less qualifications stay within the family and help the family tide over difficulties. Wang Shuangyao's sister Wang Langlang was more talented, so she was accepted as a direct disciple by Jilei Sword Sect. Extreme Thunder Sword Sect. Li Tianyi secretly kept it in mind. After chatting with Wang Shuangyao for a day, Li Tianyi returned to his room and hid warmly under the covers with his new concubine, Ma Danyan. Ding! It is detected that the host is giving birth to an heir, and the spiritual root developed by his wife Maiden is a low-grade earth spiritual root. Please start your choice. After 10 years of lifespan, the offspring spiritual root becomes a middle-grade earth element spiritual root. After spending 100 years of life, the spiritual root of the descendant will be a good quality earth spiritual root. Century. Without any hesitation, Li Tianyi directly chose the biggest one. They have more than 20,000 lives, and they have completed their cultivation to the fullest. 1 year later. Congratulations, sir. It's a daughter. Okay. A year has passed. Li Tianyi married 5 concubines in total. They are all low-grade spiritual roots. There was no surprise at all, they were all pregnant. Holding her daughter in her arms, Li Tianyi named her Li Shuiyan. It's a pity it's still a little slow. Li Tianyi sighed. Although there are many women in the town, after learning that they have spiritual roots, some will choose to regret it temporarily and feel that it would be better to join the sect. Li Tianyi would not try to keep her like this. Everyone has his own ambitions. If you don't want to stay, he won't force you. I am not the kind of guy who bullies men and dominates women. However, this progress is really too slow. If this continues, when will the total lifespan of 10,000 yuan be consumed? Ding! Li Xing broke through the 4th level of foundation building and returned 1,000th of his cultivation level. Ding! Li Shuier broke through the 8th level of qi training and fed back 1% of her cultivation. Ding! Li Yan broke through the 5th level of qi training and fed back 1% of her cultivation. Ding! Li Feng broke through the 1st level of foundation building and fed back 1,000th of his cultivation level. Li Tianyi's realm has been broken through again and he has reached the 8th level of qi training. As expected of a high-grade spiritual root, the young Li Feng is almost catching up with Li Xing. Now Li Xing's middle-grade spiritual root should be a bit restricting his development. If nothing unexpected happens, Li Feng can 100% catch up with his elder brother's level. This day, let people whom Li Tianyi can't influence appear in his mansion. Wanbai, Li Tianyi said unexpectedly. This year, Shen Wanbai's letters were all delivered through letters sent by Li Xing. In it, Shen Wanbai talked a lot about her longing for Li Tianyi. Seeing Shen Wanbai missing herself so much, Li Tianyi felt that the time had come. Let Shen Wanbai take the initiative to find him. Shen Wanbai, who received Li Tianyi's permission, quickly followed the address to the yard. When he saw Li Tianyi's family with his spiritual consciousness, Shen Wanbai said slightly angrily, "With so many wives and children, you must be extremely happy this year." "No matter what, there are many. Although I have many wives, your scent, fairy, is the most memorable to me." Li Tianyi joked. This is true. After all, Shen Wanbai's state is in the foundation building stage, and many of the impurities in the body have been eliminated from the body, making it very moist. Shen Wanbai's face turned red. The two looked at each other and knew what was going to happen next. They are all an old couple, who doesn't understand? You haven't pruned potted plants in so many years, are you still good at it? Shen Wanbai blushed and said, "Wanbai, you have forgotten that I haven't pruned your potted plants for a long time, but I prune the others very frequently and have already gained experience." Li Tianyi only needs to reach out and touch to know whether the potted plants are short of water. But when he touched the potted plant, he was secretly surprised and said, Why have all the leaves of the potted plant fallen off?" He remembered that Shen Wanbai's potted plants were still lush and leafy before. "It's only been a year since we last seen each other, why did it end up like this?" I thought there were too many leaves and I didn't like them, so I cut them off." Shen Wanbai said hesitantly. He kept his head down the whole time and did not dare to look at Li Tianyi. I wonder if Li Tianyi will be angry if I prune the potted plants privately. The result is the next moment. It's okay, Wan Bai. If there are no leaves, there will be no leaves. It just so happens that I also think the leaves are in the way. Host. Li Tianyi. Age. 45. Cultivation. 8th level of Qi training. Qualification. 5 elements waste spirit root. Remaining life. 22,612. It is detected that the host is giving birth to an heir, and the partner's spiritual root is a middle grade gold spiritual root. Please select. After 10 years of lifespan, the offspring's spiritual root becomes a middle grade gold spiritual root. After spending 100 years of life, the spiritual root of the descendant will be a good quality spiritual root of the gold system. After spending 1,000 years of life, the spiritual root of the offspring will be a high-grade gold spiritual root. Millennium. Finally spent another 1,000 years of life, Li Tianyi was extremely happy. For the first time, I felt joy in feeling life consuming. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.